you're just like, I hope I have a chance to say this in the best way. And so we are now live streaming. Got it. And hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, here we are. Hang on one quick second. Got it. Awesome. I have a second microphone right here, so I think we're good with everyone. My name is Jeanette, Jeannette. Middle name is Ocampo. Ocampo. Last name Welch. And they call me Joe because that is a long name. It's a wonderful name. I am so happy to be hosting folks here. Right now, I am just moving some things to our stream. So if everyone will just give me a hot second just to make sure that that link is taken care of and on our Facebook page, then we're going to be ready to go. As we know, technology, you can't be without your phone. All right. Let's see. It may not be as straightforward as I thought. Well, we will start streaming in just a bit then. So, hey there, I want to welcome everyone. It is Sunday, June 13th, and it is 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The reason we're here is because my name is Joe Welch, sign name Joe, and I really wanted to talk about generational wealth. So I created this 3-part series, and I got to tell you, it was the best decision ever. We've already had part 1, which was in May, where we were able to talk to Sabrina Rivera, who talked to us about student loans and the importance of the September 30th date that's coming up. The goal behind that, and the goal behind all of this, is for us to look at our generational wealth and understand how we are able to, the little things in every day that are maybe going unattended to. Maybe there are services out there that you're unaware of. Perhaps there are tools that we need to bring closer to us to manifest things that are in our mind for our future. And all of those little, maybe things we don't know, things we wish we could find. Well, they're costing us. They're costing us in time. They're costing us in effort. And with that, I wanted to bring together, and the reason I brought up my friend Sabrina was student loans are a great place to start, right? Because a lot of people have them, may or may not know about that September 30th date. And she was able to give us some insight about how taking control of that is going to not only be a good thing in the long run, but also save people money, which serves my goal, which is about generational wealth. We also met with Tony, and Tony Barraza had been in a coma for 31 days. I'm so sorry, 31 days. And the impact about estate planning and making sure that having your papers and your will and your, all of those very important documents are in place. And again, a lot of people want to put that off, or maybe think, I'm too young, it's not that time, what do I have? But really, generational wealth is about all these little things. It's about our time, our mind, our energy. And so I got the great, great, great pleasure to be able to bring people together again today to talk about mindset. So it's not just about services, but also who are we and how do we show up? Especially for me, who I love being an entrepreneur, like how do you get, when we see, I think maybe it's coming from this for me, when we see somebody who is successful in their, their own business, or they're doing what they love and what they want to do, how do they get there? What decisions have they made to get to that point? And so I think this is just the perfect time. I'm going to actually, because I definitely want to stream, I just wanted to let people know what was going on. You're going to see me again with my phone because I would like to share this. So you're just going to have to be patient, because we know in the world of technology, this is just what happens. Let's see. And for those of you who are wondering what I'm doing, because I love to share information, I'm just looking for my ability to get the link for this chat. Top chat done. Aha, there it is. Share. And the reason I'm getting it, copy link, is because I'm posting it on my Facebook page because folks are waiting for us to go live there. And I will add that technology has not been my friend. Here it is. Jen. There we go. Oh, I feel so much better now because I did not want to spend another minute not sharing this information with our friends. And here we go. Look at that. I am 3 clicks away from just posting this. So I'm able to, give me one quick second. I know you can hear me rustling around. So here I am, and I'm back to your attention. So just from our techies, all I did was I set my phone to be host. I was able to stream it to the YouTube, and then I put that YouTube link into my Facebook page, so people are able to see it. You may have noticed we have sign language interpreters, which is such a joy. I want to thank them all. They're from different programs. They're up and coming, learning about not only the profession, but you'll notice that it's a wonderful mix. We have a lot of Latinos and as Asian, and we have, diversity, Irish, and we have this wonderful mix of people who are coming here to not only, strengthen their skills, but also to join us and make sure that this message is accessible. So I thank each and every one of you. Also, you will see, and I'll be sure to post this to anybody who's attending, I'm going to be gathering information to create a mailing list. It's as simple as www.askjo.org. So that's askjoe.org. So we'll definitely have information going out to people with the replays from these. And let me see if there's anything else. Oh, I know what else. We have the interpretation. I know that YouTube is captioning it, so there's access in all sorts of directions. And so that is a priority when it comes to the business that I do, to make sure that people are feeling like they have access to our information. And with that, I will also be doing a Spanish interpretation on the replays, probably around the fall when all 3 sessions are done. Well, without further ado, I'm going to introduce my next guest. Miss Nicole, if you are able to come on. Wonderful. Yay. Excellent. I am so excited. Hello. I'm so beyond excited. And so
awesome.
For me, I just thank you. I want you to just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you. What a little gratitude. And as people know, I need to talk about food. So actually start there. A little gratitude. And what's your favorite food?
So I am grateful for my family's open heart policy. We actually threw a birthday party for a family friend last night. It was her 50th. And so just knowing that like my family embraced this new person a few years ago, and now she's such a big part of our family. And that's why I'm also in my old bedroom when I was in high school, but my mom loves Coca-Cola and Elvis. So if you see Coca-Cola and Elvis in the background, it's not me, it's my mom's passions. And I try to clean it. And then my favorite food is enchiladas with chile verde sauce, but I want it with chicken and not a lot of cheese. Because, this girl, the older I get, the more less cheese I can have. So.
Awesome. Is there a specific recipe that you love when it comes to enchiladas, or?
Okay, so this is gonna sound a little conceited, but I prefer my enchiladas because I make them the way I want them.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be conceited. How about you are proud and that you've created an enchilada that you feel. So what makes yours the best, right?
I think it's because I try to do less cheese, not smother it, because a lot of times people smother it cheese and sauce, and it's a good amount of sauce, some cheese, and really good meat, and just making it delicious. Every bite's delicious, and I love it because I make a spicier version for my husband, so he really likes his food a little bit spicier than I do.
Thank you. And I look forward to us meeting in person so that we can I want to taste it. And what's funny, when you said that, and this also has to do with our Latinidad. So we're all, we're Latinos here. My parents are Colombian, first gen. But the other thing is that when you said I don't want to be conceited, in my head, I thought, I wonder if there's someone in your family who has the enchilada recipe. But as we're getting older, we're that
Yeah.
person. We're the
Yeah.
person, right? That people are going to look
Yeah.
to and be like, oh, but I don't know if you have a nickname. My people call me Titi. So like, oh, but Titis, whatever, right, are the best.
Hmm.
So it's very funny that you said that. Like, I don't want to be conceited, but like you do, because if that's a good recipe, everybody should have it. So
Yeah.
we could talk food forever for sure, but I want
We
to,
can.
we can very easily. So I'm curious, what what I know about you, but what I really want to hear is you started a nonprofit,
Hmm.
and now, and what we haven't said is she's the editor in chief of Epifania magazine, and it's a
Yes.
Latina magazine, and like what an amazing thing! Like that's so
Thank
awesome.
you.
That's so awesome.
Thank you.
So, when, I have to imagine when you were younger, did you like wake up and say, eventually I want to host my own magazine? Or like, what was your journey when it
Yeah.
came to all this?
So when I was younger, I did love magazines. They were my thing. I loved 17, Teen Vogue, anything with teen in it. That was my thing. And actually, when I was in any type of mood or funk, I my parents would always buy me a magazine and like a candy bar to make me to make myself feel better. And it was a really nice treat. But when I was younger, I wanted to be a writer. That was the main thing. I was going to go to school for journalism and I was going to be a reporter. I had all these different visions of what type of reporter I wanted to be. I wanted to be like a war zone reporter for a minute. And I was like, maybe that's not for me. So I wanted to do all these different things. When I was in college, I did have some internships in media companies. So I was like on my way. I was like, once I graduate, I'm gonna just, get these great media jobs. Then the economy was like, no, and we had a recession. So I graduated right in the height of a recession when everyone was losing jobs. There weren't a lot of new jobs. And so you sort of just graduating, similar to kids that are graduating today during the pandemic. It's like, what am I supposed to do?
Right. And I actually want to pause here because, and I'm curious about your home.
Mm-hmm.
What was the concession? Like, what do people do when they get older? Like, here
Mm,
you were, the recession was here. So things have changed, but probably, what's interesting about it, especially our communities, is that people have been in recessions before. We're very resilient,
yeah.
right? We're very resilient people, collective culture. So there's a lot of that. So were you getting mixed messages, or what was it? What was your inner
Yeah.
voice saying?
So growing up, the message was you're going to go to college, right? Because college meant like you would have a more stable job and just more opportunities. So just to give you guys a little bit of background, I'm third generation Mexican American. My dad went to college and my mom worked retail and she worked retail management. So I actually had a very good, I think, like nice upbringing so I could see two paths, right? And see really the ups and downs of both paths. So when the recession hit, the messaging I always received as a kid was just take any job, right? Sometimes the job is not going to be glamorous, but when the going gets tough, you just may have to take 1, 2, 3 jobs. And they don't have to be 9 to 5 jobs. They could be side gigs, like where you're going to go maybe sell something at the flea market on the weekend so you can have some spare cash, take those bottles to get some coin, get some
Yeah.
money on the weekends, recycle, whatever you need to do, right? And I think they probably also had that mindset because they were also growing up in the time of no social media. And I feel like the younger generation may be a little embarrassed to do that because you're so used to posting your whole life on social media. And so it was just like for me, it was more of like, okay, I gotta do what I gotta do, take whatever job I could take, and I don't have to share it with the world. It could just be what I'm doing right now. And the funny thing is, the older you get, the more you realize all your friends have been in that point where they're just taking whatever job.
Right. Well, I mean, you're also talking
Yeah.
at a different age
Mm-hmm.
as well. Hang on one second.
Excuse me.
You're also talking at a different age as well. So like my first job was at Burger King, right?
Yeah.
And then I grew up in Miami, so I worked at Publix. And so, I think the thing that's definitely in there is that we're gonna work, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
to take the bottles, like there's no question. Like there's no like
Yeah.
taking the summer off, right? You have to do something. And then you're an adult where like the expectation is you're moving on, but all this stuff has changed. So okay, so you're making ends meet. You also bring in, which I love, I hadn't thought about, the perception on social media, like, wow,
Mhm.
what a, confronts you right there.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about what that must feel like, having that like moment of like, what does poverty manifest when you're also so public? Thank you for like, I'm so curious.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so you made some decisions. So,
Mhm.
did you say you worked in nonprofit, right?
I did. So when I was the last year of college, I decided to volunteer at the Alzheimer's Association
Mhm.
because I really was looking forward. That was my New Year's resolution for that year. I was going to volunteer. So I picked an organization and I was volunteering with them, and they were a great organization. The nicest people I think I've ever worked with. They were just so kind. And but when I was volunteering, I've noticed like a lot of the things I was doing was a little bit more than maybe what I was doing in my internships. So I asked if it could be an internship so I could get some college credit, right? I didn't need the college credit, but I was like, it's extra credit. Like at least let me get something out of this deal because it's a lot that I'm doing. I'm putting in a lot of hours. And they were totally fine with it. They're like, oh yeah, we never thought to make an internship. And then I was doing a little bit more work. And then I did ask, I'm like, well, like, is there a way I get a stipend for this? Because it's a lot of work. And again, these were uncomfortable conversations because I'm like going in and I'm just like thinking, I just want to help. But I'm at the same time like, well, this is still a lot of work, more so than my previous internships where just like grab coffee, you're doing editing, but there's always a supervisor. This was more like I'm managing myself, I'm managing my own projects. Can I get a little something?
I
So
think
then I got it.
I want,
Yeah.
I want to interrupt to say, like, the fact that you even asked for money, like that you asked
Yeah.
for a stipend, like that took a lot. Like, and so did you have that counsel at home? Was someone at home helping you think about those in those terms, in
Mm,
terms of asking for that? Or was that just your heart? You said they've reached the
I
threshold.
know.
There needs to be something, like, because how many times do we get in that position and then we don't ask?
Yeah.
So I'm just impressed with that.
Thank you. Yeah, it wasn't this big inner dialogue I had with myself. I was just, if anything, I want to admit I was a little uncomfortable
Yeah.
asking because, I'm still in my early 20s at the time, and everyone is at least 10 to 15, 20 years older than me. And so it's just a little bit more intimidating, and they're more senior in their career. But I just felt like, let me just bring it up. And I brought it up with my direct supervisor first, just to get her feedback, and it was a very smooth conversation. And I just want to remind everyone that like a lot of times we get in our head that the people are going to say no or be like angry with you, but more often than not they just haven't thought about it or they forgot about it. And so it's just okay to bring it up to them. And it was a really nice conversation. And so at the end of the internship I got a stipend, and it
which
was
is
nice.
which is awesome, and then
Yeah.
so you go from there, and you stay in the same business. I mean, because you're
Yeah.
still not an editor yet, so there seems to be
Yeah.
like some other things in the middle.
So once that internship ended, so during my time there, I've always been pretty observant in any organization I worked in. And so I noticed that the role I was doing could be a part-time role. It didn't have to be a role I need to fulfill, but it needed to be a role because it was the workload was a lot for just, there was like two managers and one assistant and then like maybe interns, right? That's a lot of work. And
Mhm,
so I just suggested that they get another part-time assistant to help out. And
mhm,
they're like, well, would you want the role? And I'm like, sure. And then I remember I didn't properly interview for this job. I just had a conversation. And then a month or so went by. And I was a little uncomfortable to ask, like, what happened to the role? Because no one told me. And so I brought it up one time during lunch with my supervisor. And she just looked up and she's like, oh, wait, you have it. I'm sorry. Did I not tell you? And I'm like, no, you didn't tell me that I got the role.
well,
Thanks.
right, but again, it goes to that power of asking once again,
Yeah.
right? And it's interesting because you're hesitant, because you had created it, then you
Yeah.
asked for it, and then they never got back to you. And so I love what you were saying about, like, in our minds we think something about what people might be thinking about, or choosing, right? That we think that they're choosing a
Yeah.
direction, when in reality we're just asking a question about where we stand in a process.
Yes,
And I just think that
exactly.
that is just so powerful. Okay. So you
Thank
finally
you.
have the job.
I
Awesome.
do. And so I have this role. I stayed there for a while and then I decided to move on, because I wanted to work in other nonprofits. I was like, oh, I have this experience now. Maybe I'll stay in nonprofit for a few years. It seems to be the safer bet. Journalism isn't working out the way I want it to do. I am still writing on the side for other publications,
Oh, good.
but I'm just like, oh, like I'll just stay in nonprofit. Let me see how this
Right.
goes.
And I want to ask you, you're still writing on the side. What
Mm-hmm.
does that look like? So are you calling it a hobby?
And call
Are you
like because going
side
back to
hustle?
maybe going back to my like upbringing, I felt like it was another way for me to make money,
Mm-hmm.
right? So because I would get very small stipends with the writing, so I was like, okay, I have my main job, and if I do a couple of writing gigs, I get some extra cash. Great, it's another way to do it. Um, so I was working in different nonprofits, still writing on the side. And one of the things I noticed with all my roles in nonprofit were, well, two things. One, I was always doing community engagement / social media. I don't know if people know this. In the nonprofit world, social media and marketing are like usually the last departments to be created and the first departments to go because everyone cares so much about program, which is amazing, but at the same time they don't have the bandwidth, or they just don't, sometimes they don't have a lot of people on the team that have a business background to really see that you need marketing and you need social media to get the word out. So a lot of my roles were always in front of people. Like in one day I did 10 presentations, I'm posting on social media, I'm making all like the infographics and everything along those lines. So all the marketing materials and presentations, that was my role. I never really actually did a program where I worked with like the people that nonprofit worked with occasionally, but that wasn't my gig.
Well, and I think you raise a great point that, and especially around nonprofit work, which is very important, that it's the mindset, right? You're in a different space. It's of course it's forward facing because it's about the consumers,
Yeah,
but that depending on where you are, people may not be thinking that it is also a business, because it's also a business. And so, where's the
it
focus?
is.
How is that driven? It's just fascinating. And so how close are we to you becoming an editor? So you're writing on the side and you're treating it like you said. You told us the story of, you were like, doing bottles and, to
Yeah.
get so that's a side thing. It's just a way to just
Yes,
get an extra money. So it doesn't have the same like weight as your day job,
exactly.
right?
So I'm almost there. So one of the things I actually want to point out, and I had this epiphany moment, where I realized, oh, I may have been an entrepreneur my whole life because all my nonprofit roles were new roles. So they were either created or there was a restructure. So I never had a role in nonprofit world where someone gave me like a manual and it's been around for 30 plus years and there's someone training me before they leave. It's sort of like, here's this new role, see what you want to do with it. Almost like I'm the guinea pig and I'm writing the manual for that role,
Right.
which can be a lot really daunting again when you're in your 20s. You're like, so I'm the first one doing this. Okay.
And you're right. So you're creating it. And I think you raise a great point, that whether it's whatever that new business is, whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit business, you know, we are creating, right? And so
Mhm.
when you're in an established business, there's infrastructure already there. For an entrepreneur, you're taking risk. And so right now you're not taking a risk, even though there's a lot of
Yeah.
risk involved, because you're doing it within
Yeah.
a structure. And I'm going to say that, for me, like for my parents and my family being Latinos, like having a job, especially as a woman, like that was really important. Like, what am I doing?
Mhm.
Right. When I was bartending, even though I was making good money, that wasn't
Yeah.
checking the box.
Yeah.
That didn't check the box. So that day job, it's so fascinating how that is so ingrained in us, right? Well, you've got your day job and then you have the writing on the side.
Yep. Yeah. So right when I got to my third nonprofit role and I was realizing I'm still creating the blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really enjoying this whole do things because that's the way it is. So I remember I had a nonprofit role that was not everyone had to come 9 to 5, but the community I had to speak to were younger people. So I didn't actually get to talk to anyone until like 2. So I felt like I brought it up. I was like, I would like to work 11 to 7 because I'll stay later. It makes a lot of sense because the people I have talked to are either just starting their career, so they don't have PTO or have a lot of say to be home, or they're college students. So it makes really no sense for me to actually be here so early. And they couldn't wrap their head around that. And it just made my role a lot harder. And I remember that I came across so many things like that, where it was like, we're doing things just because that's the way it's been done. And for me, I'm always like, well, can't there be a better way? Can't we solve this problem? Like, they're just doing it because it's the way it is. It makes no sense to me. And it actually just really frustrates me.
Yes. And
So
I just want to say that you and I could definitely enjoy those conversations together, because I'm the same way. But it also, I mean, I think it does bring up, I am identifying the entrepreneur within this as well. And so when you are the entrepreneur, you can create those rules and be outside of the box. The other side is that if you're inside of a structure, and I think that's one of the interesting things about those of us who are closeted entrepreneurs, is that we don't know, like you said, that's been all your life. You don't know that that's what's going on, because we're told we need to get a job, and the jobs are that we are working for somebody else, right? So you go, well, I'm doing the job, but every time I show up somewhere, it's not sad, like I'm going to invent something new. So all right, take it, bring it home.
Yes. So then I started grad school, and right around 2014 is when I started grad school. And it was right a few months after I got married, and my husband and I were both in grad school at the same time. And the first year of grad school, I was still working nonprofit. And then the second year, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore.
Right. Take us right there. Take us to the moment. Yeah. Is it a day? Is it night? Are you eating lunch? Like, what happened?
It was a moment where I was in my car. I just finished number 7 out of 10 presentations. I'm trying to eat a lunch. I'm also sitting on a board at this time, so a lot. So I'm doing these presentations. I'm eating my lunch. I have to be on this board meeting. Also, I have to finish this like project for grad school, and somehow get to class by 6 p.m. And where I was working is like at least a good hour drive, because it was traffic time.
Right.
And I was just sitting there, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to have my hands in so like, within so many buckets. Like, I just want to focus on one thing, and I want that one thing to be for me. I don't want to do all these things because I want to look a certain way. I just want to do what I want to do.
And I think it's like, it's not that you don't want to do a lot of projects. It's that you don't want to do a lot of projects for somebody else.
Exactly.
It's very powerful. It's a very powerful thing to be like, oh, okay. And again, that's where the risk comes in, right? Like, if you're doing it for the job, that's one thing you can say, but if you're going to do it for yourself,
there's a big risk there, because I was like, well, I don't know really what I'm doing. Like, I don't know the next step. I had the big vision of what I wanted my life to look like and what I wanted the magazine to look like. The magazine was something that came about like really quickly. When I knew I wanted to start my own business, I was like, I want it to be a magazine. Like, it was just right then and there. It wasn't just something I was like, what do I want to do? It's like, no, I want to start a magazine. I want it to be a magazine because I told you offline, I didn't want it to be the Nicole blog where it's just all about me. Because I'm like, there's going to be some days where I have nothing to say about myself. So I actually wanted to, share the platform and share the spotlight with other people. And so one of the things was I stopped. Well, first I had a conversation with my husband, because if you're in a relationship, have that responsible conversation that, hey, income's going down to 1 for the time being. And then I just quit my job. They were sad to see me go, which is nice, but I was like, I just have to do this, focus really hard in grad school so I could also graduate a little bit earlier so I could have less student loan debt. And then luckily for me in my grad school, because I was getting my MBA, all of my classmates and I, we had to do projects where it was like write a business plan, write a marketing plan, write a strategic plan. So I had all these classmates that have either 5 years of work experience, 30 years of work experience in different industries, helping me write my business and marketing and strategic plan. They took on my business that was still in the ideation phase, and they helped me come up with like the first blueprints. And I thought that was so amazing.
So I just want to say, like,
a
for
lot
those
of
of
stuff
you,
there.
there's a lot of people listening here that may be doing just the day-to-day job. And we want to be clear that like having a job is a fantastic thing. But if you do have something, an idea, you have that entrepreneurial spirit, even if it's for something that you want to keep at a small scale, the things that we're now talking about are just some of the structures that go in there, right? Like the business plan, the vision. And for me, what it does also in terms of communication, in terms of ourselves and others, is that we're setting expectations. And I think that sometimes people get into businesses and then they wake up and they're like, oh, I guess I'm doing this now, right? And so you sound very intentional. Excuse me, I'm about to sneeze, but
go for it. Bless you.
It was very cute on this side. I could have left the mic on, but I thought I would spare you guys in case it got crazy. Thank you so much. So you happen to be in a place where there was a lot of intention. So you have fundamentally, you had a board of directors, right? Or like coaching you, right? And talking to you about where that was going to go. So you're doing it within the construct of your class. And then how did you pick the name of your magazine? And when was your first issue?
Yeah. So the magazine first started off as a women's lifestyle magazine, not a Latina lifestyle magazine. Again? The magazine first started off as a women's lifestyle magazine, not a Latina lifestyle magazine. And the name came about because I wanted one name, right? I wanted just one word, like Vogue. And I basically got a really good friend of mine, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. We've been part of the American Marketing Association for a couple of years, and she's had a lot of years of marketing experience, like working for Levi's and things along those lines. So basically, I kid you not, we grabbed some wine and we drank a lot of wine, and we just went through different sayings. We looked up words in Spanish and Italian, different languages. I was like, I don't want to leave this table until we have a name. And she's like, it might take some time. I'm like, no, we're going to come up with a name tonight. I'll pay for everything we're eating and drinking. Let's just go with this.
And I want to say, you're paying for everything you're eating and drinking. That is a tax deductible, just for those people out there.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Why we're having such a good time. Like, we get it.
Yeah. Yes. And so we came up with the name Epiphania because I'm like, Epiphany. And I'm like, how would you say that in like other languages? And I'm like, ooh, Epiphania. I love that. And I felt like that is basically the essence of the magazine, because it's at the time when I was creating it, all my friends and I were at that phase of our life where we're asking for more. I feel like college really sets you up for your first job, but never really sets you up of how to ask for your second, third, fourth job, or how to switch your career. And so I was like, you have this moment in your life where you're like, I want more. And you maybe have this moment where you're breaking down and you feel really bad about yourself. You're doubting all your skill sets. You may be crying. You may be you may have to take a job that pays you ridiculously less than what you were getting paid before, whatever's going on. And you have this moment where you just have this like epiphany and you see the path. So I always tell people, I'm like, you have to feel, excuse my language, you have to feel like shit for a while before you actually see the path. So it's okay if you're at this moment where you're not feeling great about your skill set, you don't know what your next step's going to be, because eventually you're going to wake up, or you're going to be at a grocery store, or someone's going to say something and it's that one word and it just like, it clicks, because life is funny in that way.
Absolutely. So let's spell that out. So Epiphania.
Yeah. EPIFANIA.
Epiphany in Spanish.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
Right? Bing.
Perfect.
And so when was that first episode? When was the first episode? Listen to me. When was the first
I know. Okay. Yeah. So the magazine has been around since 2016. Okay. And we're a digital magazine. And so we have weekly content. So we have 2 articles a week and 2 videos a week. In the beginning, it was just me. So it was a bit sporadic because I didn't have writers or other content creators. So it was really like, what did I want to talk about? And I find it funny because I think we talked about this. I wanted the magazine not to be about me, but in the first year, it was really about me because I had nothing. There was no other writers. So I was like, well, I guess it is sort of about me. And I did try to sprinkle in interviews with other people. So I was just like, I don't want it to just be the Nicole show, but people enjoyed reading about my life for a minute because I just was married. So people want to know about like, what is it like to be married?
So when was the first edition, the first magazine?
Yes. So it was June 2016. It was after. I don't remember the date because remember we go weekly. So it's just like,
but I'm just saying, it's June. So you're actually at your 5-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. You
heard it here, folks. First,
yeah.
5th anniversary of Epifania magazine.
Thank you. So, it's so weird to think 5 years because I'm like, didn't we just start yesterday?
So you have it's a full-on magazine. People can find it online. Yeah. We'll be sure to get links out to everybody. Now, in the 5 years, what's been like your favorite stories? Oh, I guess maybe not just a favorite story, but you said it started off as a women's lifestyle magazine. What gets you to Latina, Latinx, or lifestyle? Yeah. Where's that transition for you?
So that transition really happened around 2018, 2019. I am part of different Latina organizations. So Lean and Latinas, Latina Coalition Silicon Valley.
So we're going to just slow down for just a second because some of these are new names for me. So you say Latina Coalition
of Silicon Valley.
I live in because you're out in the West, right?
I'm in the Bay Area.
Right.
And then there's Lean In Latinas, which is part of Lean In.
Okay.
Yeah. And then We All Grow, which is basically national. Mm-hmm. So I'm part of all these different organizations. Every time I wrote an article, it did come from a Latina perspective. When I interviewed people, they were either Latina or people from the BIPOC community. Mm-hmm. So it was, people already assumed it was a Latina magazine. And I was like, well, okay. And I was going back and forth. I'm like, is that inclusive? Non-inclusive? You have those inner dialogues with yourself.
I do. I actually know because I put out when I put out this advertisement, I'm like about this where it's like 101 Latino communities, everyone here, mostly Latino. And I know that there are people out there who are probably like, I shouldn't go because it's for me, right? And I'm like, no, it's just telling you what flavor it's going to be. That's all. You're still welcome to the table. I just want to have a sense of like the direction we're going to be, the frame we're coming through.
Exactly. So around 2018, 2019 is when we made the complete change. Basically just sort of changed our tagline, really changed our direction. And I realized that actually allowed me to grow a little bit more because then I had a clearer direction, right? Because as a business owner, your direction is going to change all the time. Like you start off one way and you're going to go another way, and that's fine.
Exactly. And so we do have 2 minutes left as we're starting to wrap up here. And so I just want to say, what are you looking for right now? We want everybody to look at, is it epifania.com? Is that your Epifania magazine? What is the
Epifania magazine?
There you go. Epifaniamagazine.com. So we want to make sure people go there. But also, what is your favorite story? And then, are you looking for something? Again, we're talking to people about mindset. Maybe someone out there is a writer and they're like, oh, I hadn't even thought about. Now I can reach out to Nicole and send maybe an article or something.
Yes. So definitely. So we now have a team of 10. So that's actually something I'm very proud of. So we're national, and we actually have one of our writers based in Canada. So we have people in LA, Texas, New York, in Canada. So we're in Missouri. We're like this. And I like it. So if you ever want to write for us, definitely pitch us. Just send me an email, pitch me your article idea, and we can start talking. Because, if you're going to just send me an email that says, I just want to write, I have a lot on my plate. So pitch me an idea first and we can see. So definitely do that. my favorite article. Oh my goodness. That's a hard question because
Well,
there's been a lot.
like
Oh, okay. You know what?
Yeah.
One that I actually enjoy writing. It wasn't one that I thought was going to take off, but people loved it. Like absolutely loved it. And it was called All the Women Who Have Broken My Heart. And it was about how friendships are like relationships, and when you stop the friendship, it's like a breakup, if you will. So I sort of went, I changed the names, of course. I sort of went into detail of like three separate.
They know who they are.
Yeah, three separate breakups, if you will, like, and how it was. And I felt like that resonated so much with our readers because you don't talk a lot about like when you end a friendship, it is very similar to a breakup. And they're all very different, and it could really hurt your heart and hurt your pride, and make you feel bad about yourself. Yeah, well, that was a good one.
You have been an amazing guest. I want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
We can see through your story, as we're wrapping up, like here, we see through your story that mindset is so critical, right? It was you were already an entrepreneur, but you've made, you didn't have the words for it. You didn't see it in that way. But the things that you were doing, you already knew you wanted to change. You already were changing the world around you. And it is interesting that shift then says like, well, if I'm going to change the world around me, then I want to be the beneficiary. I want to be the person who's doing that. And the side hustle, the thing on the side, which is actually your love language, right? The thing that you are enjoying to do, when given the chance, came to the front. And so I just want to thank you for 5 amazing years of Epifania magazine. And I want to thank all who are out there. This is such a great example, amazing Latina. If you're out there and you're just, start reading, we need to read and represent more of our own stories. So Nicole, I want to thank you so much. I will be making sure that everybody's going to be getting copies of links and stuff to make sure that you can find it. Please subscribe to her magazine because that's the way we do this. So we're just, again, business. You go, I'm meeting someone new. She's making an ask. I'm going to follow her so that, I'm not only getting the content, but that I'm also spreading the word. So I just want to thank you so much for your time. And I hope you stick around. We have some more amazing guests today. And I look forward to the next venture, just so people know, like, we're most of the people in my life right now are still very new friends. So it's just this discovery.
I know.
All of it.
I love it.
I love it. It's the world I want to live in, and I'm incredibly blessed that people want to live in it with me. So thank you so much for your time. And then I'm gonna transition because we do have actually, maybe I got ahead of myself. 2:45. Actually, I realized that I had told Ray a little bit later than I meant, but I just want to thank you again.
Nice.
So
thank you. Bye, everyone.
Oh, there we go. We got the man. So, Mr. Ray, thank you so much for being on. Let me just go ahead and say to everybody tuning in, I want to thank you so much for being here. What a great guest. My website is www.askjo.org. askjoe.org, and in that website we're going to have everyone's links. We're going to make sure that you have the ability to find Epifania magazine, their email addresses. Like a lot of us, we're one person operations, and so for me, it takes a little while to catch up and make sure all that content is out there, but know that you will get it. And if you want to, there's a mailing list, so I'd love to have you say that you want to know more about what I do. And Ray popped on just ready to go, which I love, but I just also want to say that full transparency, I'm many things as well. Colombiana, Americana. I was born in New York. I'm a sign language interpreter, thus for me especially the importance of having interpretation. But also I work with a company called Legal Shield, and a lot of people know that. And the reason I bring this up is, again, we're looking at the aspects of business that are helping us move forward, changing that mindset. And the mindset also comes from welcoming experts into our world and making sure that we have the advice and the critical things that we need. And so again, just keeping in our minds, as there's so much to learn from all of these amazing, amazing people. And with that, I'm going to transition because we were talking about change and finding your voice. Ray Torres, how are you today?
I am exceptionally well. Thank you for having me.
I am so happy to have you on here. I met Ray because he is the founder of the Latino Professional Network. And, in the time of the pandemic and COVID, we switched onto an online model. And I got to tell you, just, I'm so honest, I love our model. And it's like speed dating plus dialogue, which is the most Latino community culture thing you could ever imagine, is that we go individually to talk and then we come back and all talk about things that are on our plate. But before we jump into all that, as you know, I need the for two things first, which is gratitude, something about Latinidad, and then also your favorite food. Very, very important.
So the one thing that, I gave this some thought, but the one thing that I'd have to say that I'm grateful for is the evolution of me. And that is that you always think that I figured it out until you realize that you haven't. There's something else. And then you reach that plateau like, hey, I figured it out, until you realize that you haven't. And it's that. So you've heard this a lot, at least I have in my life. And that is that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And I'm constantly being reminded of that it is that the biggest growth is going to come from that journey, not from not from reaching the destination.
Right. Absolutely.
So I'm grateful for the journey, basically, and the evolution that actually came about because of that journey.
Right. And I agree. It's constant, right? It's always, and I would 100% agree with you. And, just to enjoy that, but also that there's old mindset sometimes where people think that they're going to arrive somewhere. So I celebrate you too in your journey. And so, okay, food, gotta say the food. What's your favorite?
My favorite food is pernil.
Oh, do you make it?
I've tried a couple of times. The first time it actually came out pretty decent. The second time came out too salty. I learned, but I haven't tried it. What I do on a regular is make empanadas. I bake them. I don't fry them because the frying isn't necessarily good for you. But I do eat pernil on a weekly basis. There's a spot in Cambridge I've gone to for the last 18 years.
We're gonna have lunch or dinner or something. Like that can't be like only your secret. So and actually, if you want to do a shout out, you're more than welcome to. People should know.
It's Izzy's on Cambridge, or it's Harvard Street. Izzy's on Harvard Street in Cambridge.
Oh man,
it's not too far away from Central Square.
My mouth is watering right now. Pernil, for those who don't know, is a pork shoulder stuffed to the gills with, right? Is it with garlic? And how did you make it? Did you do like a mojo sauce or
salt, garlic, so the Latin seasonings? But you got it's easy to overdo it though.
Yes, well, at least the salt. But I don't know that there's too much garlic. So, when we were talking offline, just again, I love LPN. One of the things that I loved about it, especially in COVID, is that it meant that we didn't have to stop connecting. And, in the Latino community, we're not meeting enough and talking about business. And so one of the things that really just drew me to you was, the mentality, the law of attraction, and really talking about what it means to be a business person. And I asked you, when did you get started as an entrepreneur? And you told me 14, right? You were 14. Tell me about that.
So oddly enough, I'm from a small town, upstate New York, Amsterdam, just outside of Albany, about 35 minutes outside of Albany, the capital of New York, this. And I was hanging out at the community club, the Spanish American club, where all the Hispanics would go for holidays, and they had an auxiliary for women, and they had their own baseball team, and on and on and on. They were all about the Hispanic community. And I was watching my brother play DJ, and I watched him rock the crowd. The crowd was going crazy, and I thought to myself, I want to be that. I want to do that. And within 6 months, I had saved enough money and bought my own equipment, and I was DJing. And then I added a couple of DJs on with me, and I created a name. And
what were you known as?
So we started off as the Divine DJs, and oddly enough, when I got out of the service, I formed the Divine Productions Limited. That was the name of the company after I got out, which I would have been 20, 21. And it still exists to this day. My friend in New York runs Divine Productions Limited in New York, and I run Divine Productions Limited here in the Boston area. So we've been around for more than 30 years. We celebrated 30 years last year.
Wow, congratulations. Happy anniversary. But it really does. It's like did you think of yourself as an entrepreneur at 14, or did you just think like, I just want to DJ and make a little extra money?
So I didn't even know what entrepreneur was when I was,
right?
And I don't think I even saw myself as a business owner. I just saw it as a guy that was running things. And later on, I would learn how to do taxes, because when I was young, I had someone else do my taxes. But when I learned later on, I would learn to do the longer form and write things off.
Right.
And that's when I really acknowledged that, hey, this is a business. This isn't just something that we're, so my mentor actually said it best. He said, "Oh, would you consider yourself professional?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Are you getting paid for what you're doing?" "Yes." "Then you're a professional. This isn't a hobby. You're getting paid for it."
Right. You only have to worry if it's a hobby in tax world is if you have a loss for a continued amount of time. So for those of you who are out there who think that what you're doing is a hobby, but you're making a profit year after year, I think in big terms, that's a business. If you're not, then you can look at it as a hobby. And so it's interesting too, that, I've been learning over the last few years, like a business is seen through all these different lenses, right? So you talked about the tax lens of what you owe back for the earnings, but I'm a geek in that way. So I love going down that rabbit hole. We don't have to go there today, but I would love to talk about that, because I think that, again, we're not talking about being entrepreneurs enough. We're not putting it out there. People don't know the money that, again, my generational wealth mission here, people don't know what they're leaving on the table. Nicole talked in our previous interview and said, so I'll pay for everything here. And, and just so we get the name, that's a business meeting. And so sometimes, and again, it comes from, no, that's okay. Or, oh, I've got the $5, or, it's fine with me. I can do this. Let me just get it. And not in this frame of, oh, this is a business. Right. Yep. So, and I love that you're doing this at 14, right? And a lot of businesses come from heart too. Right. It just came. So you're DJing, you're just going to people's houses. You're having a blast, right? You're just making people rock. That was your agenda. You're now bringing people on. You're in your 20s. And thank you for your service, by the way. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So what happens next for you? I mean, like, are you now that the service is over, which is a job, and thank you. So now what happens next? Do you go to work for somebody?
So, I said earlier that I'm thankful for the evolution, but everything in my life has been an evolution, including my own life, not just my business, well, not just my life, but also my business, or business and life, where I started as a DJ, right, and slowly made the transition into being a promoter. Because at one point, there was no one that wanted to hire a 14-year-old kid. So, and I heard you talk to Nicole about, she mentioned something about marketing. And that's the first, it's the first thing to go when budgets are tight, which doesn't really make sense to me, because if you want to continue to grow your business, or at least maintain, you want to make sure that the word is still getting out about your business.
Right. And so, before I go, may I ask you, like, what do you think that is that people think that has to go? Like, what could we change in people's thinking about what a marketing budget should be, or why they should prioritize it?
You know what it is that where you need to start is actually business school, because this is where that concept is coming from. And no insult to anybody, certainly I don't want to do that, but these old way of thinking come from old men in business, and I've gone up head to head with them, trying to convince them, or here's something that's, that the way that marketing and advertising is going is towards social media. But try to convince these guys that have been doing radio and television that you're throwing away money, you're flushing it down the toilet, They just don't want to hear that. They still want to continue to flush all this money into radio and television, just wasting it.
Right.
So instead of actually figuring out what can we do more with social media.
So we have a lot of people listening, right? Whether it's now or in a replay. And so I think it's a really great point that there are some, and this again is about mindset, right? So there are people who believe certain things about what advertisement marketing would look like. They focus, it sounds like now, especially with the pandemic and with social media the way it is, they're overlooking opportunities to really make an impact, especially to look at a younger audience, right? More diverse audience that, again, looking at the pandemic really came to light, right? We're finding, I mean, Latinos especially, we're finding that there's a lot more business owners, a lot more homeowners, meaning that we're seeing people with an increase in wealth and being able to do that. But yet the person may be in charge of a large organization or one that has a lot of years behind it is not up with the times. Wow, that is a big fight.
And so the thing is, and I think Steve Jobs said it best, that death is the single best thing that actually happens to life, is that they're going to retire. And the person that's going to be replacing them is going to be younger and have a different mindset. And so eventually corporations will catch up. They are catching up now, probably because a lot of them have been forced into retirement or just retired and they've been replaced, or just the writing on the wall. If you look at statistically, that even these advertising magazines, oddly enough, I remember when I realized that the shift was actually taking place towards social media, I would still follow the magazines. These magazines that strictly focus on advertising and marketing, they were still focusing on radio and television. So these guys that are following these magazines thinking this is the trend when they're missing the point. They're missing what really the trend is.
And I think this is such great information. So for those of you who are out there who are running businesses, you know, and again, I think it's again about the following what has been done before versus looking at what needs to be done, right? Having that evaluation. And so one, trust your gut for sure. Talk to people who have this experience, right? So Ray, you started in the radio and television side and have made that adjustment. There are a lot of people who are. We also have millennials and younger people who are coming into it from that place. But if you're in that kind of opaque middle space, it's worthwhile to stop and smell the roses fundamentally, right? Like take a minute because, and the question is, why is it important not to like either sacrifice a marketing budget or do a smaller chunk of it or be aiming like how is not like, I think that, you know, even Nicole brought up, like they want to focus on programs instead of marketing. People want to focus on this versus marketing. You know, what are they missing out on?
So the one thing that you can do with social media, more specifically with, well, now even with your own website or with Google Analytics, is that you can watch that traffic. Facebook, I know specifically, I run ads on Facebook. I know specifically what people are clicking on. I know not, so I put a 30-second video out and it'll tell me how long that person watched that video. If they watched that video 75%, there's an interest there. They jumped out for some reason, but there was some interest because they stayed for 2/3 of it. Or 3/4 of it rather.
And I think, you know, just even to further what you just mentioned about that you can track, if we're also looking at the old school ways of how you track customers, you'd have people who either came to your website, came into your store, who bought, right? You'd be able to track that. I think that a lot of people can't even envision what information they could gather. So just thank you so much for saying, like, you can see someone interact with your online presence, and that's going to start to build that picture for you. So for those of you, I mean, I'm telling you right now, you got a guy here who has expertise in this, but definitely remembering how important it is to understand that even if it's not you, because it's also by not knowing it, it's going to cost your business. You're not going to grow and scale the way you very likely are intending. You're, you know, maybe overlooking some opportunities that might be a simple little switch, a simple bringing someone on, right? Like, and again, that mindset and how it impacts our generational wealth is, and it goes back to your like flexibility, right? The journey and being able to evolve. That, I mean, I just think it's such an important message. You know?
So I'll give you an example. There was a new station just came into the market, Rumba 97.7. I know they're getting some backlash because they're playing too much reggaeton, but people don't realize they're going after the younger generation. So, and the younger generation is still listening to salsa, merengue, bachata, but they're primarily focused on the reggaeton. So I got clever. I run LatinBoston.com. And I mean, we celebrated with 21 years. I've had that website active. So I'm running an ad, $2 a day, $2 a day. And so all I did was I took their promotional video, I reposted it on my website or on my Facebook wall, and I'm spending it's called a branding ad, $2 a day. And I ended up getting a client from it. I'm getting clicks. And people are learning about 97.7 or Rumba 97.7 because of me, because of my organization. And like I said, I got a client out of it. So $2 a day, it's already producing. And I've done this for other things, other branding ads or different. There's up to like 12 different ads, different types of ads that you can run on Facebook. Some work better than others. But I'm working with small budgets and they're still producing. You can't do that with radio and television. So the thing with Facebook advertising specifically is that you can work with, I don't know, $2 to $5 a day, a budget. And you can produce business with that. You're not able to do that with radio and television.
Again, I hope people are listening because, again, I think that the mindset is that we can't afford that, right? The mindset is, oh, I could never, if I'm going to put my money somewhere, I'm going to put it into brick and mortar. I'm going to put it into, and it is, those things are important. Staffing, of course it is. But the oversight of not looking towards an expert, not looking towards someone who has some insight about what we're discussing could be costing your business. Like I'm learning. So just so people know, in case you're unaware, I am constantly a student of everything I do. So I do hope that people do have their pens and paper out and they're taking notes. Because, we've already had several conversations, Ray, and I did not know this. This is amazing. And so this is what you do. This is what you do in you have multiple businesses. So if someone was going to look to speak to you about branding, where would they reach out to you?
Well, they can visit the website. I have a lot of websites, but it's and I didn't share this with Felix, but it's Buzz AMG, M as in Mary, G as in George, buzzamg.com. And you can learn a little bit about what we do. And then if you hit the contact, you'd be able to send me an email and then we'd be able to connect there.
So BUZZAMG.
Correct.
.com. And so what's the meaning behind that name?
So I wanted the company, my advertising agency, my marketing company has actually gone through different evolution. It's also gone through its own evolution. It started off with I had worked for another agency and I thought, hey, they can do it, I can do it. So I started Boston Buzz a lot of years ago. And then I realized, I want to go after some national accounts. So I changed it to Buzz Advertising, Buzz Marketing and Promotions. And I realized we're not doing much promotions, but we are doing advertising and marketing. And so I thought, so what can my name be? And I just, like Nicole, well, she actually did it with over wine and with her friend. Me, I just asked my intuition. I asked myself the question, what can I do with this? And within, I want to say a good half hour, the idea started flooding in. But I'm an intuitive, so I'm able to actually, it comes easy for me. It may not come for, maybe Nicole would understand this, because I believe that your subconscious mind actually kind of plays a role in all this.
Right.
So it said, because I was going with Buzz Marketing and Advertising, and I was told, this is what the thought that actually came to mind, was Buzz Advertising and Marketing, BAM. So our logo is this explosion, and in the center, it's BAM.
Awesome. That's amazing. And yeah, again, intuition, people use prayer, they use meditation again. And what you're talking about is mindset, expectations. Like there's just so much to this. And I mean, are you, here, let's talk about this, your company right now. What do you want to share to our audience about people who are they may be looking for you this whole time? What do they need to know?
So we've made the shift from, I mean, we've been in business for 20 years now. We've been distributing door hangers. But it's just a lot of people aren't buying that. And I don't know if it's really working as good as it used to. So we made the transition into digital. If you're looking to kind of to even test the water, we could do it for short money. And I'm willing to actually work with people. So yeah, and I should actually mention something about being Latino and being an entrepreneur, because I've had this conversation with other Latino entrepreneurs, and I've had this issue where we have issues asking for money.
Just hold on, full stop. Let's just take a second for that. Just breathe through it, right? Because Nicole was impressing me. She's like, "Hey, I'm doing a lot of work. I think I'm gonna ask for money." I'm like what? Like, did you ask? I feel bad.
I wish you had asked her. Did your parents teach you that? Because as a woman, listen, I don't want to be sexist here. I don't want to sound sexist.
Good. Let's not go there then. Let's find the right way to do it.
No. I you had your place, and your mom.
Right. Yes. Historically, correct.
Yeah, historically, you don't want to be an aggressive woman. This is something that I never really heard. But I realize that in this day and age, in order for you to compete, you have to be aggressive. And I'm curious of where she learned that. Did her mother teach her that? Was her father the one that actually taught her that? Where did she learn to be that aggressive?
Well, and it's interesting, just in context of, right, historically, as women are, we're seen as objects, we're seen as chattel, we're seen as we're not equal to men in all sorts of histories, voting rights and all that. But it's also interesting to look at it as aggressive, that I think is what we're seen as when we ask for what we need or what we want, and versus knowing our value. Right? Isn't that wild? Like and I'll say it comes from internal, like, even when somebody owes me the $5, right? They owe me the $5. I put out $5 for them. I feel bad asking them for the $5. Right. And it is, you're hitting it on the head in terms of, and what does that look like in marketing? And what does that look like when we talk about it? But you also said another side, which is short money. Like, I think it's a great idea to be able to do small projects for people to also get a sample, to get an idea of what it is. But in my head, I'm like, I don't think I can afford you. In my head, I'm thinking I can't, because whatever marketing is, well, that's outside my budget.
So
right?
This is something I tried to convey to somebody. Do you have a $300 budget for a month? If you have a $300 budget, let's test it. Mm-hmm. I think that you could do it for less. However, if you really want to make a difference, $300, I think is, and if you have to borrow it, because I'm telling you, you're going to make that money back.
Actually, Nicole is responding. If you want to bring your camera up, you're more than welcome, because she's responding to your question of, like, how did you know to do that?
I would love to hear that.
Yeah, let's hear the answer.
Hello. I was like, I'm like, I don't know how I'm supposed to answer this, like, right now. I was actually, and I'm glad you had this question right. It was actually my dad. So, I have 3 other sisters and a brother. And so he basically always raised us pretty equally of, like, you're going to get paid the way what you deserve. Right. And so, you're getting paid $15 an hour. See if you can get paid $20 an hour. Like, why are you only getting paid? Like, question everything, basically. Like, don't take things as status quo. And also a big thing for him was to make sure his daughters never had to rely on their partners financially. He's like, I never want that for you guys. That way, if anything ever goes bad, you can leave, So
that
was in the back of my head. Yeah.
That's a powerful message.
Yeah.
And
thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
thank you for asking.
Thank you so much for responding. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And what to her point, like, a lot of women are raised not to be allowed to, or to think as though that they can have a job that supersedes their partner, especially in collective cultures and, you know, strong male identification in the family, where there's, you know, machismo and ego, and what does that mean? And so I would say, as someone who does take up space as a Latina, as a woman, you know, it's not always welcome for sure. But, you know, when we look again, going back to mindset and saying, you know, I know what I'm worth, I know what I bring to the table, and I'm also growing, I'm always growing in my business, that sometimes it's about learning how to ask, or what to say, or how to set it up. For me, and I'm an author as well, and one of my chapters is called Barking Up the Wrong Tree. And the idea that sometimes all of the things are correct, but we're bringing that information to the wrong person. So yes, you deserve a raise, or you deserve what you deserve, but you're getting married at the wrong person in the system, who may not have the authority or the power, right, to be able to make that decision. And so some of that is, again, we don't talk about business enough, which is why I'm, again, excited to have you here, and that you're also local to me. So that means we can have Bevneed together and talk more about all the geeky stuff. But I also want to go to what I loved about our pre-conference before this was that you are currently in an evolutionary space. And I think that that's very important as well, because when we talk about business, people often think that, again, you do arrive, right? You have the thing, and you have many of the things. You had your DJ business, your entertainment, your marketing, you have those pieces, and there doesn't have to be just one. Right. I'm a multipreneur, but for a long time, I thought I wasn't supposed to be, that somehow I was either not living up to my potential, or watering things down, or, you know, they say things like, you know, if you're a jack of all trades, master of none, those kind of voices out in the world are there to say, you know, don't do that. And then also, as a woman, having that idea of like, well, if I don't have a husband, or if I have a husband, do I have the job? That security isn't there. But right now there's parts of your businesses that are in flux, and how do we not normalize it, I guess, maybe, but I don't like the word normal. How do we say being in flux, being on the journey, is part of the journey, right? Like to figure out, like you said, you were doing the print, you were doing, you know, newspaper, radio, and then you had to be in flux because the world around you was in flux. Right? People were doing it in certain ways. You had to learn too. So you were in flux as you were bringing up your knowledge base for social media, and how to manifest that, and how to do what it takes. So where are you in terms of flux, and how do you embrace that? Because I think a lot of people are very uncomfortable.
So I brought this up on our last, maybe the second to the last Zoom call, Zoom mixer, as I call them, the Latino Professional Network, is that you always want to start with the end in mind. And that end might shift, may change, but you always want to have that end in mind. And it's not just to have a direction where you're walking toward. It's also setting up expectation in your subconscious mind. And in the grander scheme of things, some would call it a scam, but it's definitely not a scam. It's definitely a scheme of things. Is in the grand scheme of things, when you set something, when you set the end, it also sets it in motion with the universe. So, and this is something that I'm learning almost on a daily basis now, how things are just showing up on my radar to get me to my end. And when I start to doubt myself, that channel kind of shuts down. Very bizarre how that actually, and maybe some of your audience have actually experienced this, where when they're clear where they want to go, things are showing up to get them there. And when they start to doubt themselves, that's when things start to shut down, and the hurdles actually start to show up in your path. Very bizarre how that works, but that's how my experience in life has been. When I doubt myself, so does everyone else. When I'm sure of myself, I might get this random feedback that, oh, you're on the wrong path. But the majority of the people will say, they'll give me a thumbs up. I'm like, yeah, Ray, I'm proud of you. I know what you're doing. I'm rooting for you.
Right.
So the end in mind, always, always. And so this is something else is that I've actually learned. When you don't have that end in mind, you're heading in 1,000 different directions because you don't know where to go. So the thing is, it's imperative. Here's something that I've actually learned on my journey is that when I'm not clear about where I'm going, I'm working a lot harder, but accomplishing nothing. But when I'm clear about where I want to go, what I want to do, then things actually fall into place, and I can accomplish a lot by doing very little. Where when I'm not clear, when I don't have that end in mind, I'm working a lot harder and accomplishing less.
Right.
So if I can impart some advice to everyone listening, is to start with the end in mind and have some faith in what and the unfoldment.
Right. And then absolutely, I think that's great, having the end in mind. And sometimes the journey of finding what that end is, or maybe it's a smaller end, maybe it's a mid space, right? You're getting to those next places. And I just love that because it does bring clarity. And there's some really great books. I know that we were talking about the law of attraction. I'm reading One Big Leap, I think it's called, that just like I opened that book and just read the first 2 pages and it struck me because it also talked about when we start to like experience joy, like you said the end in mind, when you start getting closer to the end, there are other things that we start to do to ourselves in terms of that doubt, that brings in that sabotage, that you're like, oh, do I deserve it? Where is my value? Like, and again, mindset, right? It goes back to like, how are we thinking of ourselves in space and time? How are we moving that forward? And a lot of our collective culture and the strength of our Latinidad influences that, right? And so yeah, I love that. And you said, like I said, you said the end in mind, but it's like it's multiple ends, right? Because there's no end, it's a journey.
Or it could change, or so there might be you might have the ultimate goal where I want to be a millionaire, but you have these smaller goals that you're actually going after. Like, I'd like to actually make I don't know, I want to make $50 today. I like to get that new. I want to be a millionaire, but it'd be nice to actually have that next client today.
One of the books I'm loving is, I think it's called The Freedom Journal. And there's one that's a 100-day goal. So I don't know if you've been turned on to this. And so it's 2 pages where you put in your gratitude in the morning, you do some micro actions, and you set your schedule, and then you talk about things that work and don't work. So for those of you who are looking for those things, like especially sometimes we don't know what we're doing. And again, we're not talking about business enough, breaking it down to those little pieces, that something like this journal is a great way to just start to move your needle forward. And because we're starting to run out of time, we have just 3 minutes left, but Ray, I want to talk about LPN. I want to talk about the Latino Professional Network. I want to let people know that because we're online, there is a desire to want to do some meeting in person, but because we're online, we actually get to be anywhere and everywhere. And so I just wanted to hear just a little bit. I want to thank you for hosting it. The style is you come in, we're all chit chatty, and then he breaks us off into rooms, and we get to meet some people just kind of one-on-one, and then come back into the main room and talk about different issues. We've talked about this event actually stemmed from a meeting in the LPN for me, wanting to talk about generational wealth and estate planning. And I got to meet some wonderful people. And then, we've also talked about education. We've talked about, Latinos, first generation college students. Like we starting to talk about a lot of different, very important issues, so what's going on for the LPN and you, and what do we need to share with folks?
So before I jump into about LPN, there's one book, or there's a series of books, but there's one book that I would you probably could even find it online at this point for free. It's called The Miracle Morning, and this guy, he's just Hal. Hal is great. When I was lost, I was turned on to The Miracle Morning. Actually, just showed up on my radar, and it got me on point. Miracle Morning. If any book, if I was going to recommend any one of them, I would say The Miracle Morning. So LPN, after our conversation the other day, because it is definitely in flux, I realized that one of the things in business as a serial entrepreneur, I've learned is that you always want to take care of the basics. And so if I want to, if I want this organization to continue and definitely succeed, we got to go back to the basics. So we'll continue to do the, we may not do something this month, even the online thing, but I'll circle back to that in July. But I also want to do things in person. And I also want to do something that I talked about that some of the former board members didn't want, and that is to do socials. So what we do is we do networking, business networking, well, casual business networking. We'll do one online, and then we'll also do something, maybe we'll go to a museum or we'll go to a brewery. We went to this one place that made hard cider in East Boston. First, we went to the ICA. It was right across the street. And then we got free cider samples across the street. It was an awesome event. Everybody loved it. And we got an opportunity to chat. And they said, oh, we got to do this more often. So 3 things, get back to the basics. We're going to continue with the online thing again next month. And then we're going to do something in person, the networking. And then I want to go back to these socials where, because I noticed that there was a different dynamic of people that were actually coming to our social events way back when. They don't want to network, but they do want to socialize. And so, and it's important because we want to hang around with our own kind. We want to hang out with Latinos. We want to hang out with people that are of mindset, similar mindset.
You know, and you bring up a really interesting point. I thought about when you talked about yourself at 14 and that there was these communities, fundamentally community centers. I wrote down the word city. There's small cities that had like the auxiliary, so a place for the women, a place for the men, a place for everybody, the family. And I think that's one of the things that, especially when a lot of our families are coming here and we're breaking that generational lineage, the wealth and all of that, is that we have to artificially, to some extent, create that. And so I think you're raising a great point that the socials gives us a chance to build the network, right? Like they fuel each other, because it's not always about business, but it is about the relationship, right? And and I would even say that that I can't wait to see what happens next. The Latino Professional Network is it the latinoprofessionalnetwork.com is the web .org. So latinoprofessionalnetwork.org. Right now we are meeting online. And is the frequency right now is it gonna change? Are we doing?
If I notice that the people attending, if it's dropping off too much, then we'll shelve it. But this month I just might. I was involved with a lot, wasn't able to do a lot of talk about marketing. If I don't do a lot of marketing, a lot of people don't show up, and I haven't got around. I've been on the road a lot, so right. I think it just makes sense to shelve this month, and then we go full force in July, where we're going to do one in person. I've got a venue in mind. Just have to reach out, confirm. We'll do something online. We'll do it in person. We'll do online, and I'll start the ball rolling, because there was an idea that doing paint night.
There you go. So we're going to be building community. We're going to be making sure that people, and especially when we do have it online, anybody, wherever you are, you're always welcome. It's just, I think we are building, and that's one of the things I'm a part of, is that we're building communities in a very different way. And for me personally, as a Latina, my Latinidad is just off the charts right now. And just a total side note, have you seen In the Heights yet?
No, but everyone on Facebook is talking about it.
It's ridiculously good. It really, really is.
I saw the coming attractions. It looked like it was going to be.
It's amazing. What it is that it's a story that's absolutely told in love. Like the whole thing is, and it's just
not like the West Side Story.
The West Side Story, it's at a different time and a very different story. Yeah, no, nobody dies here. Everything is good. Well, everything is good. But I just want to circle around to say I'm just so grateful to having this conversation. Folks out there, if you are a business person, we have that email. His website is buzzamg.com. The networking is latinoprofessionalnetworking.org. And fundamentally, you can always come back to my homepage, and I'll make sure that we're going to be getting all those links up to date. That's www.askjoe, askjo.org. And we're going to be able to just connect everybody because there's a lot to be had. At its core, we're looking at the generational wealth by knowing what we need to be able to make our days more productive, to be in touch with our entrepreneurial spirit, and making sure that we look at experts to get the job done. Ray, I want to thank you so much for taking time with me and for sharing your knowledge with just not me, but everybody else. And I will see you not in June. Okay, I'll see you in July for sure. And I hope that we actually talk before that point. So much love. Thank you so much for coming and being a part of this with me today. It was an absolute joy. Thank you. Thank you. And oh my God, there's been so much greatness. I love it. And in case you guys are unsure, I love information. I love entrepreneurship. I do. I'm a geek who loves talking about taxes, and I just want to remind folks, you may notice we have interpreters who are shifting on and off, which is such a joy as well, to make sure that this is accessible to everybody. You may be seeing this on a replay, so you are more than welcome. All these links are just website links, so it's going to get you to where you want to go. But with no further ado, I have a special guest who has given us today a very, very special gift. So if I can introduce Nicole Hernandez to come on the screen.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
That was very good. She was checking with me to see if I was going to take a bio break, but I just, you got to hustle, right? You got to just have the message. I know that it's a beautiful day in many places and people want to get back to what they're doing. So I want to make sure that if they're taking the time that we're just doing it. And I wanted to start with Nicole and I are a part of something pretty amazing, right? Project Enye. And so I love talking about it because Denise Solar Cox has put together a movie about ENYE, being an Enye. And an Enye is a first generation American who either was born in another country and came here very young or had their cultural experience here in the United States. For me, it's about my parents who were born in another country. They're Colombian. Nicole, where are your parents from?
We're Texans.
They're Texans, multi-generational Texans.
Yes.
Excellent. But Latinidad, nonetheless.
Yes, Mexican American.
There you go. And so we have multiple cultures within us. And not only has Denise created a beautiful story representing that the multiplicity of us all, but also a coaching group. And so we've gotten to know each other through there. So thank you, my Enya sister, for coming and being a part of this. I am really excited.
Me too. Yay. All right.
So I bring that to say, tell us a little, the gratitude and food. Those are the first two.
Gratitude. I'm grateful to still have access to my family right now. And my grandparents I just spoke to this morning. My grandma cannot hear very well. She's so hard of hearing. So she just says, okay. She says, you tell her something, she just says, okay. But she's 86 years old, as is my grandfather. And I feel really blessed to still have them around. And, my other set of grandparents passed away, but we have these dialogues, and I feel so grateful to be able to call them and get a sense of the family history and understand how their beliefs have been passed down, or how their challenges that they conquered have helped their family moving forward. And so we'll talk a little bit about that with them today.
Okay, awesome. That's excellent. And now, of course, the food.
Oh, my food. Cheese enchiladas. So I know Nicole mentioned earlier that she loves chicken enchiladas. Mine is cheese. A lot of cheese, onions, wrap it all up, a lot of chili on top. I definitely love the Tex-Mex vibe, and my grandmother makes them. So I always go for hers first.
Excellent. And, I think you raise a great point, is that, you are Texan as well. So there's a piece of that that your food is Tex-Mex. Like, it's a very specific style and approach, and that's your yum. And that's just delicious. It sounds amazing. And so I think they're in just completely separate categories. So we have the Tex-Mex and the Mexican, and I can't wait to try them both.
Yes.
So I'm so grateful for the gift that you're giving. And so today, Nicole, who is the resident healer for the Four Seasons New York, right? New York City, as well as a traveling hypnotist, is sharing something. So tell us a little bit about you and how you get to being the traveling hypnotist. What is that for you?
How did I get to be the traveling
Yeah,
hypnotist?
how did we get there?
I decided one day walking by the beach. And let me tell you the story, and I'll make it kind of quick because I know we're short on time. But essentially, I've been in marketing in the travel and hotel industry for 15, 16 years. And I've opened hotels. I've been a part of concepting the programming for hotels, creating these very sensory rich experiences for guests. And I loved the job, but at some point you're like, I don't know if I want to really stay in this. On the side, I was doing yoga for a decade. I taught yoga, mind body fitness, so bringing in mindset. Then I launched my podcast. And so I've been talking about these topics for a long time. But the yoga, the mind body fitness, the podcast, they were paying the bills. And so it was a process of letting that go for a little while and moving full into marketing. And I started my social media agency and really moved into that space. The thing that led me to hypnosis was my anxiety. So I had chronic anxiety, a lot of it just around people pleasing, of not feeling worthy, of always worried that I was going to lose a client, lose job, all those things. And it's very common around people that are high achievers. We've learned how to check all the marks. And if you check the marks, you're good to go, right? If no one disapproves of you. So, right. I know it's laughable, but that's what we've been trained.
Ouch, yes.
That has been the training. And becoming an entrepreneur was the thing that really set me into full-on panic attacks. And I lost my hair. I had alopecia, stress-related alopecia. And I had to really recommit to a whole new way of being through that.
Right.
And so it was deepening this idea of mindset. That's how I found hypnosis. I was actually sick and I couldn't eat anymore. And someone had mentioned to me, like way in the back of my head, it was like somebody had mentioned that they had seen a hypnotist for their anxiety. And I was like, I've got to try something and nothing's working. So let me try this. And I was super skeptic because I love science. Like I leave space for spiritual, but I love science. So I'll geek out on it. But I started to listen, do it. And I realized that over time, this is actually the thing that helps me heal my body. Started with my stomach, then my hair grew. And then I decided to go into this training. And that's when I took back all the old stories that were holding me back.
Wow.
And I remember it felt like someone had just taken this weight that I'd carried around for 40 plus years and just took it off my body. And I have not had, I have anxiety occasionally. Of course, during the pandemic, it came up. It was not chronic in the way that it has been. And I have not had a full-on panic attack since then.
Wow. It's so powerful. And we've talked today. Mindset stands in our way.
Mm-hmm.
It's in there in places that we can't always, that it's an itch that we can't always scratch. We can't always even have the words to talk about. You talked about the manifestation of how it was showing up in your life,
Mm-hmm.
but to also make the leap that there might be something that could start to calm that down. That's, so powerful. So you're telling me that you're running you're saying marketing, this is that's hot and heavy. Like you're out there and now you're transitioning. I'm sure there are a lot of people out here who are also feeling that way. Like, that's the thing about entrepreneurship too, is that we're putting the risk on our shoulders.
Oh yeah,
right?
for sure.
And
For
so
sure.
And so again, this is why I'm so grateful. And I want to make sure that you have plenty of time. Again, I just need a couple minutes at the end to just do a wrap. So we have more than enough time, but we want to be transparent. Clearly we have sign language interpreters. What's going to happen next is that Nicole is going to be leading the next part of our event. There will be some slides, right? Did you say you have slides?
Oh, yes, I do. I'm going to try to go through them fast.
Well, okay. And so I'm going to make sure that the interpreter is connected for that, because and feel free to okay, you're going to be doing the slides. And then the piece that I wanted to address was we are going to be doing a guided hypnosis, correct?
We are.
And so we do have deaf people who are in the audience right now. And so they may wonder, well, very often these times include the idea of like closing your eyes. And so Nicole and I have had a conversation about how to approach this. And so just to put it out for everybody, that you don't have to close your eyes. One of the strategies, and I did reach out to some deaf folks who do work in the more spiritual realm with yoga and meditation, and a suggestion was made, up to you to take it, is that instead of just closing your eyes, you can just avert your eyes, bring them down, right? So you're just angling them down. And so therefore you'll be able to still see when maybe there's more dialogue that's coming about, and and we're getting your attention. So we'll be able to get your attention. Nicole will be describing the activity first when the time comes, and then saying it again during the activity. So it will be repeated. So if you're out there and you're worried that you're going to be missing, know that she's going to explain it. She'll repeat it again during the activity. The interpreters will be interpreting, and then the next activity. So we're trying to make sure that people have access, and that it doesn't run away, like the communication doesn't run away from us. And so without further ado, Nicole, it looks like you wanted to say something.
No, I was going to also say, people think that you have to have your eyes closed for hypnosis, and you do not. So even if you wanted to keep your eyes fully open to watch the interpreters or read the words, I think you're going to do captioned for this, you can do that too. And know that it's just like daydreaming. You can just focus in and allow your mind to drift.
Right. It's a great thing. So just a reminder for people who are also like, where are we going to go? It's like daydreaming. I loved your analogy of, and this works for me, television, where
Yes.
you're putting your energy somewhere else and you're allowing yourself to just go into that state. And so, again, I can't wait. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to step off and let you should have control of the room as well.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to press play here. And again, we're going to go through this, unpacking your hidden money blocks. I want this to be a gift to you today, to really get into your unconscious. I use the word unconscious instead of subconscious because I come from more of a clinical background, but unconscious includes like your heart that breathes, your heart that thumps for you, your body systems that are working, your memories, all those thoughts, our beliefs. So that's what I can consider unconscious. And we're going to start unpacking things. I want you to grab a pen and a paper if you don't already have one, because I want you to take notes. So whatever comes up today, I want you to take a notation of it so that we can start to look at it even more. Here's what we're going to go through. I'm going to take you through the 5 top money blocks. I'm going to show you questions to start to ask yourself to shift out of the old money blocks or those old money beliefs. And then we're going to do hypnosis, as we spoke about at the end. So we talked a little bit about me. I'm Nicole, the traveling hypnotist. I work with the Four Seasons Hotel in downtown New York. So if you ever want to do an in-person session, you can come there. I'll also be traveling around the United States this fall, this summer. So you can check my website, thetravelinghypnotist.com, for any of those dates. I'll be in Dallas and Austin soon. So that's coming up. And then I'm the creator of Unlock Your Money Magic. This is a little taste of Unlock Your Money Magic, which is where we aim to heal our self-worth as we amplify our net worth, because they're both related. As we talked about earlier through this process, you heard people talk about deserving, worthiness, And that comes into play when we start to think about money. So let's talk about money from the perspective of my background here. So in 2017, I lost my last corporate job in PR. And I was actually really grateful for it because I did not like it. I was already planning to leave. It just happened a lot sooner than I had planned. And it was sudden. I had zero in savings at that time. I had $24,000 in credit card debt. I got 1 week severance because it was kind of a newer job. And we had just signed on to a brand new luxury apartment that was double the cost monthly than what we had been paying, my fiance and I. So a lot came up and I was like, you know what? Let's just go for it. I really thought about setting up that resume again, but nope, couldn't do it. My gut said no. So that takes us forward. I built the business, went up to between $16,000 to $20,000 on average. And a lot of that is quite frankly due to the mindset work that I did of unpacking these money beliefs even more and digging into that. And that's why this work is so important, because you can shift very quickly. Then the pandemic happened and I lost 90% of all of my revenue in the course of 5 days. But it was eerily calm for me. It was just a recognition that I was already working in hypnosis and I needed to let go of a lot of the marketing that I was doing. And it gave me the space to really reshift into what I feel is my soul's calling. In this last year, actually in December of last year, Four Seasons announced me as one of their resident healers. So I'm very excited to be the first hypnotist by a luxury brand like Four Seasons to come into the space, and they are willing to trust me with their clientele. I've worked with royalty. I've worked with top tier clients. I've worked with everybody, but I really enjoy this work that I do. And I feel that it is life-changing and healing for so many people. And for me, especially in ways that I couldn't even contemplate. I always say this is the opportunity to journey within, to go beyond. So that's what we're going to do. So the secret here is that we're talking about the practical magic of your mind. And the thing is that when we change our beliefs, we're actually physically changing our brain. We are physically changing our biochemistry. So you might be familiar with a little thing called neuroplasticity. We find that when we are working through hypnosis, when you're in a meditation, anytime you're really learning and you're actively really present, your brain starts to make new neural connections, right? And so you think of it like this is your old neural connection here that tells you to go from point A to point B. Point A is I get an email. Point B is like, it makes me feel really stressed. So with hypnosis, we can go this way now. I get an email, I feel calm and I feel focused and I can do my job and still feel confident. So we are building these new neural pathways. The beauty about hypnosis is that neuroplasticity actually happens when we're sleeping. But because hypnosis is a state of calmness where we are relaxed in the session that we're doing today, not all hypnosis is, but in the state that we're doing it, where it's calm and relaxed and we're almost on that edge of sleep, we can bring the process together faster. So we actually create changes in our mind faster, accelerate the neuroplasticity process. So you might have seen stage hypnosis, right? Little waving of the pocket watch. That is not what we're doing today. This is not about someone else having control of your mind. This is actually you taking back control of your mind. Think about this. When you were little, someone suggested to you how to think about money, and you took that in. So in reality, you were actually kind of hypnotized early on. But when we use it in this way, when we take back the process of hypnosis, you get to change your mind in a way that actually serves you. So we're doing clinical hypnosis or hypnotherapy, just for those of you that want to be, succinct in what we're doing today. It's going to feel like a visualization. It's going to feel like a meditation. You're going to focus on the sensations in your body, maybe what you feel internally. A lot of times as high achievers or people that are always on the go, we don't even stop to connect with our bodies. It's a problem. We're calming the nervous system. This is a beautiful thing because when you're fully on all the time and you haven't learned to calm your nervous system, if you can run into health risks, heart problems, all kinds of things, just like as I was losing my hair and had chronic panic attacks. So important work that we're doing here for your body. We're going to rehearse new outcomes. That's really what we're aiming to do today and what we do in a lot in hypnosis. And then as I mentioned, it's all about neuroplasticity. So changing the mind inside. Now, a lot of people are like, I don't know if this is for me. Sounds a little woo-woo. I get you. I'm exactly where you were a few years ago. Now, I want you to know that Tiger Woods has been using hypnosis since he was the age 13. This is important for you to know because Tiger Woods is top class, right? You could say that he is top of his game as a golfer, but he learned to kind of close out the outside world and focus, which is what hypnosis is. It's really a state of being focused. And then he visualized the outcome he wanted. And man, he got it right over and over and over. He rehearsed the outcome that he wanted. So if it worked for Tiger, it can work for you in many different ways in your life. Now, I wanted to bring this to you because this is really fun to share. It really opens our eyes as to what we're thinking about. We don't always talk to people about those deeper beliefs that we have. Maybe they're not even conscious for us. But when we look at some of the common blocks, especially around the Latino community, and this certainly can span across different communities, but this was specifically done in a Latino community. So I want you to see the answers here. We don't have enough money was the first one that came up. Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are selfish and greedy, and money is the root of all evil. And they'll think they're better than us. They think they're better than us just because they have money. So a lot of these are coming up, and we're going to address them today. I want to talk about the first one here. It's called broke to belong. It's money block number 1. Broke to belong is when we choose to belong to a certain socioeconomic sphere and we consciously or unconsciously are living in a way that supports that choice. So let's talk about the first phase of this, part 1. This, I never really entered into my mind as a consideration, but I have seen around the community, there are a lot of people who are so afraid that if they declare that they want to be a millionaire or that they want to do better than their family, that they're going to be ostracized or judged. And people are going to ask them, well, who do you think you are? And they are going to be essentially kicked out of the community. And this is their own family. Now, my mom didn't raise me that way. This wasn't what my experience of the world was. We actually used to drive in Dallas to Highland Park. My mom used to drive us by all the nice houses that are in this beautiful neighborhood. And she'd say, that's what you're going for. So it really depends on the family as to whether this one is one of your money blocks. But what are the things that we typically hear with this? You may hear things like, do you think you're better than us? They'll say you sold out, you're moving into another neighborhood, you kind of left your family behind. And who do you think you are? So maybe you can relate to that. So the collective agreement here is that we're going to stay poor, we're going to stay in poverty to belong to our culture, our neighborhood, our family. This is really interesting because it starts to play into our hierarchy of needs here. So we go right there straight into the middle, the love and belonging. We need to feel like we belong, that we need connection and relationships. So when we start to break this belief down, that can be really difficult for some people. It can really tie into our emotions and bring us down. It can feel very frightening and anxiety producing when we say and we finally declare that we want to have money when our community says no. I want you to meet Olivia. This is my grandmother. Now, my grandmother lived in East Dallas, which was the poorer part of town. That's where she grew up. Her mom pulled her out of school in the 6th grade because she said, you're a woman and we need you to help make money to feed the family. And so education was not a priority for her. Not that she didn't want it to be, but it wasn't from her family. So my grandmother saw what was happening in the community, right? She's seeing what's going on around her. She sees that people are drinking alcohol. The men are sitting outside. They're drinking their money away. They're spending things on stuff that they don't need. And she was like, I am going to do better than this. I'm going to marry a husband. He's not going to be a drinker. We're going to educate my children. We're not going to live in this neighborhood. And people said to her, oh, so you think you're better than us? And my grandmother's super fiery. So she said right back to them, she's like, yes, I do. And you better believe that Olivia moved her family when she had a family. She moved them to a neighborhood that had good schools. And she and my grandfather busted their butts to provide for their family, 3 boys. They all went to school. They all went to college. And she changed the lineage of our family, right? And it's such a beautiful story because you can be the one in your family, talking about generational wealth, that changes forever the lineage. You are history or herstory, right? You are making that choice now to unblock the rest of your family by deciding to move forward with courage. So the questions to begin to ask ourselves: is it true that everyone's going to judge or resent me? Yeah, you might have that aunt that's going to resent you, or the cousin, but not everyone is. There'll actually be people that you're going to inspire. There's people that are going to look at you in your own family, cousins, that are going to say, wow, she chose differently, and that means there's a possibility for me. And we have to start looking at that possibility, the possibility we create for other people when we actually follow our own heart. And thinking about the lineage again that is going to benefit from your brave decisions. Broke to belong part 2. So I actually belonged to this one. This was my thing. Broke to belong can also look like appearing to have the wealth that can lead to excessive debt. So as I mentioned earlier, I had $24,000 in credit card debt, and I really wanted to be a part of that set that was in the Hamptons and was going to Montauk and to all the places and had the nice clothing to wear and just to look like a lady of luxury. But, marketing can or cannot pay that well. And it certainly wasn't paying me what a doctor would make, for example, but I was trying to appear to have that existence in my life. And so I had created a lot of debt. You add interest on top of that, and it is a powerful drag down. But you see this all the time. People are choosing. I just got a little message here. So let me turn, oops. I think I need to turn this off. I'm going to go back in here in just 1 second. Okay. So again, we're going to go back up to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So we not only have belonging to go into a different socioeconomic status, but there's this esteem part that comes in here, the status, the recognition. So now we're hitting 2 of our hierarchies of needs here in this specific belief on this part 2. And it's important for you to know that because we're starting to try to move up this ladder of needs in our lives as humans. And that's often why it's so difficult for some of us to break these money habits. So you might hear things like, you can dress for the job you want, not the one you have. If I look like them, I will be accepted by them. It's a lot of the thinking that happens. And if I look good, I can marry into money, right? This happens a lot with women, especially those of us that were kind of trained when we're younger. All you have to do is find a rich husband and you'll be set for life. And I hope that that's not the dialogue that's happening now among young girls, but it certainly was during when I was young, and certainly with my mom when she was younger as well. So the questions to ask before you purchase, right, one of these things, will this item have value in 5 to 10 years from now? So a lot of people buy things like sweatshirts with logos on them. Like a sweatshirt's not going to do you any good in 5 to 10 years, probably, right? It's probably not going to have the value that you want it to have. You need to ask yourself, are you trying to prove your worth by borrowing a brand's perceived value? Now, I told you I was a marketer. So this was what I did is I helped to build the perceived value of a brand to create the emotionality behind it and to help people feel like if they purchase something that they were borrowing that value in themselves. So this happens every day. So it's just something to be really cognizant of as you think about your own buying habits. Would you buy the item if the brand name wasn't associated with it? Like buying a pair of Gucci sneakers or buying a bag. Would you actually buy that item because it's just really nice, you love it, without that logo on top of it? And I like this one as a really nice way to look at making buying decisions, especially on things that are considered luxury items. Do I have 10 times the amount of this in my savings? So don't go buy the Gucci, the Louis Vuitton bag, unless you have 10 times the amount of that in savings, because you need to have a plan for not only paying that, but for replacing that money in your savings. Right? So there has to be this kind of understanding that even if I spend it, I need to replace the money. So I must work longer and harder for more money. This is our money block number 2. We're going to go a little bit faster here. Do you believe you must work hard to make more money? A lot of people will say yes. And especially if you grew up with a family that were immigrants or that didn't have much education, where it's hard manual labor and you're not making much money and you are trading your dollars for time, you will definitely see that come up. So yes, if you're trading your dollars for time without a semi-passive income plan, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Yes, if you don't have strong boundaries around your time. So even if you are an entrepreneur, you have your own business, but you're not creating boundaries, and now you're selling your time off for like $10 an hour, you're not really, doing yourself a service there. And then the last one here is until you can hire out a team to replace you. So again, we're moving out of the model of trading my time for the dollar. And this is where wealth really starts to happen. So the poverty model, just so we're all clear, poverty model is to pay bills, buy goods and services. You don't see a third tier here of savings or investment, right? It's the money going out. So we have to look at the wealth model. This is our 3 tiers. Pay bills, because we have to pay your mortgages, whatever it is, buy goods and services, and then your future investment. So that's like your Roth IRA, your savings, your real estate, really any other way that you can make money passively or somewhat passively, little exchange of your time for that money. But this is essentially how it works, right? This is the model if you were just to take a quick screenshot of it and look at it. Now, if you don't have the third tier, if we're not working from a wealth model, I want you to decide now today, and I want you to write this down. What are you going to do to allocate money towards your future? I want you to start small. Even if it's $10 a week that you're putting into a savings that you will eventually put into an investment account, start small. A lot of people spend $10 a week on lottery tickets, and not many people are millionaires. So take your $10 and start making it work for you. I will tell you that my first job in New York City, I probably put maybe $2,000 into a 401k. My company had matched it. I was there maybe a year and a half before I left to go elsewhere. That little bit of money 15 years later grew to $2,300. And that is through recession. That's through 2008. Still, it made $23,000. So like $2,000 to $4,000 becomes $23,000. So just imagine if I had actually put more money in there, the compounding interest that that small thing would have had over time. And this is what I'm talking about, making your money work for you. So it doesn't have to be hard. It just requires commitment, persistence, and time. Another money block that I hear a lot is that I am not good with money. And you may not have been in the past, and that's okay. But when we learn we are bad with money, we actually repel our abundance. And why is this? Well, there's a thing called the self-fulfilling prophecy. So this is a phenomenon that when we declare or predict our outcome, we are going to live in accordance with that. Often unconsciously, we have the habits or we do the things that sabotage us and move us into the place where we didn't want to be, but we were expecting to be. So we had to be really careful with the things that we say, and the thoughts that we have. And, especially when we create identities around who we are, to say, I'm not good with money, or, I've heard people say like, I'm bad at love. Be careful with those things, because you're actually predicting and expecting it and fulfilling on your own prophecy, because you are very powerful. Now, I want you to know that the average American spends over 85 hours a month watching TV. That's almost 100 times as much as they spend on their household financials. So tell me, is it that they're not really good with money, or are they just focusing their time elsewhere? It's a choice not to learn how to use money, or to learn more about investments, or to learn more about how we can set ourselves up for a really important financial future. But instead, we're on our phone looking at Instagram or TikTok or watching Netflix. But let's start to shift some of the time and attention that we're spending on those things to where it really matters. Learn. So the questions to ask ourselves now: notice your I am statements. Where are you saying I am this? Where are you declaring you are or are not something? And if you notice, write it down. What am I suggesting or affirming? So those are going to be the suggestions and affirmations that you're saying to yourself, and you're bringing that into your life. And how am I creating this with my time and my actions? So write down, what are you doing to affirm those things? So if you're saying I'm not good with money, and then you're watching TV, you're affirming that. So let's switch it up. Choose a new action. All right. So let's move on here. It takes me a couple seconds there. Our fourth money block: money is the root of all evil. Now, I have to tell you, my grandfather was a Baptist minister, and my grandparents were missionaries. So this one came up a lot, of understanding what the concept really was. So do you believe that having money makes you greedy? A lot of people do, because they grew up in households that constantly repeated this. Money makes you greedy. Money is the root of all evil. You've heard that. But the actual phrase is, the love of money is the root of all evil, meaning the love of money above your family, the love of money above your integrity, the love of money above your, above all else, is really the problem. That's what we call greed. So greed is actually when we place money above everything else, including our own lives, the lives of others, and it happens. But I also think that greed is a special sauce that we continue to perpetuate. It's on that self-fulfilling prophecy that if we believe that if we have money, that we're gonna be greedy, some people do move into that space because they believe it's going to happen for them. So just one of those things to kind of watch out for. So greed is as a result of lack or scarcity mentality, which results in that kind of taking mentality. It's like, there's not enough for everybody, so I have to take more for myself. Do you know anybody like that? You probably watched American Greed, or at least are somewhat aware of it. When we go onto TV and we watch these shows, there's always a lot of stories and news about Americans and greed, or greed in the financial systems. And I think it's fascinating for people because some people just don't have much money to work with. So we continue to just perpetuate these beliefs that if I have money, then it makes me greedy. And then it just keeps the whole cycle, we just keep going, keeping going. And it becomes a form of entertainment because we don't know, but it's fascinating to us. So we want to know more. But do you know any poor people that are greedy? I do. Do you? Yes, I bet you do. I bet you know of someone who is poor and also greedy, because greed isn't really about having money or not. Greed is that lack, that scarcity mentality that we need to take it all because there's just not enough. But I want you to think about people that you know that are the opposite of this, people that have money, that are wealthy, that are actually giving, they're humanitarians, they're philanthropists, and they're helping to create and shape a better world for everyone. I think that you can actually choose to be this type of person, be a person of wealth that also has impact and can give. So one of the news sources I really love is on Instagram. You can find Good News Movement, and they talk about all these stories of people that are actually doing great things and are helping other people. And I really think that we need to be sharing more of this news. And when we do, we change our mindset about what having money really looks like, right? We get a balanced perspective. Yes, some people are greedy. But yes, some people really do want to give and to provide for others and to help others out. They're not. So let's balance, the perception of what this really looks like in our minds. Money block number 5. Money doesn't grow on trees. Are you sure about that? So maybe money doesn't grow on trees outside, right? When you have a physical tree, but it grows on your money tree, on your family tree. When you look at your family tree, just noticing all the beliefs that have been carried down from generation to generation to generation that will continue to go until we stop the old money beliefs that have been limiting us. So let's take a look at what this looks like here. Money habits are formed around the age 7, according to the University of Cambridge. So they've shown that the little kids will learn early on whether they are going to delay their gratification. You might have heard of that little marshmallow study where they put marshmallows on the table. And if the researcher went out of the door, and if the kid didn't eat his marshmallow, he could have another one. He could have, an extra one when he got back. But if you ate the marshmallow, that was it. So they showed which kids ate the marshmallows and which didn't. And then they tracked them years later. The kids that did not eat the marshmallows did better in life. They saved more. They had better jobs. They just had an overall better lifestyle because they had learned to delay their gratification. So let's work this out and understand how this layers out. And I need to move this box here so I can see. I can't see my screen. So give me 1 second here. Okay. So the first row here, you see money is hard to come by, right? So let's just say this is for Rosa and Jose. It says money is hard to come by. That is the belief system that they have among, the two of them. Money is hard to come by. And then their daughter, Victoria, thinks because she saw her parents work so hard that she doesn't work that hard. She's a social worker, but now she doesn't think she deserves the money she has. So she's unconsciously is out spending this money. And now it's creating conflict with her and her husband, Eddie. And now their daughter, Anna, creates the belief that money creates conflicts. So we see how the limiting beliefs change over time. They adjust themselves. But until we really get clear on what we're talking about, and we start to change those beliefs, they carry down, but in their own kind of form, right? Or they can carry down in the same form, but we are carrying the scarcity and the lack mentality down through the generations. We have to stop that. Okay. So a couple questions we're going to ask real quick. And if you have your pen, just jot this down. How did your family members generate money? So how did your mom, your dad, your grandparents, how did they generate money? It's probably important for you to know. If you don't know, go ask your grandparents if they're still alive, or ask family members around you. Or you can work with a genealogist, someone that can help you find out all this research on your own family. Now, how did your family members feel about money? Were they conflicted? Were they careful? Were they limited? Were they ambivalent about money? I remember my grandmother on my mother's side, she was always very careful with money. She always paid her bills in advance. So if she put something on a credit card, she paid it off right away, but she did not want to pay any interest out to a company. And so she was very careful. With my grandfather, he was kind of like, enjoy the abundance. He grew up from a family that had wealth. They had real estate. And so he didn't have like a limited mindset around money. But on my dad's side, it was, a little bit different as to their frame of mind. So what do your family members say about people who are wealthy? Do they say they're good people, they're greedy? Are they pointing you in that direction? Are they telling you that they're manipulative? What is the conversation around the money, around wealthy people? Is it being isolated to those people? Sometimes in these communities of color, we'll say the white people have money and we don't. So is it something that is not of us? So just noticing the conversations that are happening there. And what do your family members say around people that are poor? Do they say things like they brought it on themselves? That's our kind of people? Is it like a belonging that's embraced? What are we saying around people that are poor? And then how did your family members handle money? Were they frugal? Were they stingy? Were they manipulative? Were they investors? Were they spenders? My mom was a big spender. I remember we used to go to the department store and she would buy makeup at the counter from Estee Lauder, and we would go home and she would hide it in the car so that my dad didn't see it. And then we bring in the bags later. And so I learned kind of this secretive spending habit for these things from my mom. So just noticing what you remember about growing up and how your family responded to, around money. And what beliefs did your family members have about money? Did they say things like money causes conflict, money causes problems, money requires hard work? So as we've gone through these 5 beliefs, there's a lot more, but what did your family specifically say about money? Just noticing that. Now, begin to ask ourselves what we really want to keep and what we want to let go. So what have you identified as maybe some beliefs and some patterns, even in the 5 that we talked about today, that you have been unconsciously carrying forward from your own family belief tree? And which ones do you want to put down? So which ones are you ready to say no to? I don't want these anymore. We're going to cut that out. Move forward with more of an abundance mindset. And which ones do you want to carry forward? Maybe there's really some nice habits. Your father, your mother's a saver, so you want to become more of a saver. Those are some really good things to think about too. All right. So we're going to now move. I know that was really fast, and I'm like, whoo. We're going to move into our group hypnosis. So as we mentioned earlier, you can keep your eyes closed. You can lower your eyes. You can look at me. This is about you having the opportunity to go inward. And so Joe had mentioned something earlier, which I wanted to share with you. She said, can you talk about the story about the watching TV? So just imagine when you watch a movie or when you're watching your favorite Netflix show, right? You are so focused in on watching that show that you can actually suspend the knowledge that you have, that there's directors, that there's actors, that there's an entire set there, right? But you can just let that critical part of your mind go so that you can associate into the movie so that you can be part of the story. And that is essentially what we're going to do today. but you are actually going to be the star of this movie. So I want you to imagine as we go through this that you're just allowing your mind to just focus in on that inner TV of yours or that inner picture, and that you can just allow everything else to fade away so that you can be the star. I'm going to plug in my computer real quick, so give me 1 second because I don't want us to die here in the middle of this. Okay. Now, we're just going to take a moment. Hey, Joe, did you want to say something?
Yeah, do you mind to stop sharing the slides? Then
Oh, sure.
people can see both of you. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. All right. So let's get started. So whether you want to close your eyes now, or you want to just lower your eyes halfway, or you just want to kind of look at your screen and just allow yourself to begin to go into that daydreamy state, just allow that to happen now. And so I'll ask you to just focus on your feet. And hopefully you're sitting down right now or your feet are touching the ground. And if you're not, then just take your hands and place your hands into your lap. And you can begin to just focus on those feet or those hands. And just noticing the energy underneath those feet. So you might feel a pulsing sensation or a tingling, or maybe you feel a warmth under your feet more than the other, or you notice that in your hands, feeling that tingling or warmth, just a sensation in more than one or the other. And I don't know exactly how that will feel for you, but just allow yourself to feel that. And just breathing into that now. And just imagine now that you can tune in to your own body, tuning into your own body now. And I want you to just imagine, just using your whole imagination, that you can find that place in your body where scarcity or that lack lives. So you might think of it as maybe just a little place of constriction, of tightness. We'll just imagine it like this little block of energy. That little block that's just kind of holding there, creating that constriction. And just feel it. And we're just going to imagine for a second that that block or that tightness or that constriction is that poverty and that scarcity that's in your mind, that's in your psyche. And I just want you to now imagine that through the top of your head, you can invite in a light of abundance. Just imagining that you can bring in this beautiful light of abundance through the top of your head. And you don't have to force it, but I just want you to imagine that you can see a color, that light of abundance. Maybe it's white or pink or blue. I don't know exactly what color that'll be for you. Just allow yourself just to see this light of abundance moving through your body. And you can imagine it moving through every muscle, and moving through your tissues, and moving through your bones and your cells. See it moving through you. And just imagining this light of abundance that's coming through the top of your head. It begins to relax your body. So starting at the top of your head, just allowing your eyes to just release the muscles on the side of your eyes. and allow the muscles to release in your cheekbones, letting your jaw go slack, just creating that space in there. And allow that light of abundance to move down the back of your neck. And you can even feel how this light of abundance allows those muscles in your back to just melt down, letting go. And you can see this light of abundance just moving down your arms, creating this stillness inside of you. That light of abundance now moving through your chest, creating some ease and some space. And maybe you can even breathe deeper in now. Noticing how much easier it feels in your body now. Breathing into your belly. Breathing in just like a baby that's sleeping. And you can allow your breath and this light of abundance to take you down even deeper, just into this moment where we can focus inward. Bringing that light of abundance through your legs and feeling your legs, feeling even softer now. Maybe your legs even have a heavy quality to them, like when you're sleeping, when you feel deeply rested. And you can allow that energy to move through your legs all the way down to your tippy toes. So just imagine that light inside of you now, that light of abundance. And allow that light to go to wherever that block was, or maybe there was multiple blocks, that constriction, that tightness. And see that light wrapping around it like a beautiful cashmere or silk, and helping it just soften and shrink down now. So seeing that block just shrink down to a tiny little piece of sand, even smaller now, even so small that it can leave your body without you even noticing. So just imagine now that you can intuitively just allow that block that's so small now just to move out through the bottoms of your feet like an energy, allowing that abundance, that light of abundance, to clear it out all the way out of the bottoms of your feet. And you can just see it leaving and being taken back by the earth, and the earth can just take of it and make it into something else that will better serve this world. And now just tuning back into your body with that light of abundance, and just notice how much more space is in your body now with this light of abundance, and how much freer it feels on the inside now. This light of abundance having already updated you now. And in a moment, I will count from 3 to 1. And when I count from 3 to 1, you'll be able to imagine yourself in a peaceful place in nature. And this may or may not be somewhere that you're familiar with. It may or may not be a place you've been on vacation. It doesn't matter exactly where it is, or even if it's real. But you'll allow yourself to go there, into this deeper place within yourself. 3, feeling yourself moving deeper, deeper, deeper down into this place of just being here with all your unconscious mind and your thoughts and your memories, your habits and your behaviors. And 2, just allowing yourself to settle into your body, allowing your mind to begin to travel wherever it needs to go that will best serve you. And 1, arriving now to that peaceful place in nature. And I don't know exactly what will be there, or if it's so fantasy in this peaceful place in nature, or if it feels mystical, or what it feels like for you. But I want you to see your feet in this peaceful place in nature. Just noticing your feet here. And are you walking on clouds or stepping on the ground or on sand? Just noticing your location now and how you're interacting with the world. Noticing how you're moving in this peaceful place in nature, and as you move around, taking a look from side to side. And just allow yourself to get that panoramic view of this peaceful place in nature. You can notice anything that suits you and anything that really inspires you. And you can take that in, take in that feeling into your body now, even more. That sense of inspiration that you get when you're somewhere that you truly love to be, a place that feels like it just allows you to feel freer and more like yourself. And just notice here how the air, the temperature feels on your skin. Maybe it's warm, your perfect sense of warmth, or nice and cool. Just noticing how that feels on your skin here in this place in nature, this peaceful place in nature. And just noticing that you can reach out and touch, just touching whatever you'd like with your hand, feeling the texture, feeling any smoothness or roughness, noticing the temperature, just touching, reaching out, experiencing with all your senses this peaceful place in nature. Now, in the distance here in your peaceful place in nature is a cave. And this is a cave of transformation. So I'll ask you to move towards that cave now. And just know that as this is your peaceful place in nature, and this is your cave of transformation, that everything good can happen to you here. Only good can come of this place. And you have all the potential and all the power available to you now. So as you move into that cave, begin to notice the outside of the cave. Notice what it looks like. And there should be nearby a light for you to light your way. That light will be for you as a lantern or a fire on a stick or something else. Maybe it's like a little fairy that has a light turned on for you. I'm not sure what that will be for you, but just imagining now a light that lights your way. And as you move through the cave, see on the walls, maybe ancient writing. See on the walls perhaps crystals, or see clouds, or something that looks completely out of this world. Maybe there's a garden growing on the inside of this cave. It doesn't matter. It just matters that you choose what's here. And so you keep moving forward in this cave, and it begins to open up even more. This cave of transformation has a mouth so big and so wide. and you see people there. And the funny thing is that you get the sense that these people are all here to be with you in a loving and compassionate way. You're all meeting here today. And you can look at them and get a sense that you know them. Maybe you see your family or distant ancestors. But you all get a sense that you know each other in some way and somehow, and that you're connected, even on a soulful level. And as you're there, I'd like for one of these people, maybe it's a relative that you know well, or maybe not, to come forward and to tell you which money belief you're going to change today. What is that poverty or that lack mentality that you're ready to release today? And hear that, or feel that, or sense it. Just receiving that information now. And as you sense that, I want you to take a look at all of these people here, your ancestors, your lineage. These generations go back so far. And notice that there's a chain, like an energetic chain of poverty, of lack mentality, of scarcity. And see the chain connected to your feet and to their feet. And just notice how far back it goes. And you are here not only to release yourself, but to release them on an energetic level, and to release your future lineage, everyone who will come after you, whether they're your own children or the people in your life that you will touch, or maybe it's your siblings' children, nieces and nephews. You're here to release them also of having the burden of carrying forward this chain. So I want you to see that you are now able to dissolve this chain. And I don't know exactly how you will do that. You might just be able to touch it and it dissolves. You might be able to pick up a wire cutter, a big chain cutter, and it clips and then releases everyone. So just imagine however that happens for you in your mind. And you are able to do this because this is the place of infinite possibility, and everything here that happens is for your benefit. And so see that happening now, releasing not only yourself, but everyone else from this chain of poverty and scarcity and that lack. And just noticing how much lighter you feel now. And just noticing their faces, a sense of relief, a sense of freedom, a sense of peace, a sense of calm. Just noticing how their bodies respond. All that weight, all that burden, dissolved, gone now. And together you can hug each other or celebrate somehow, just noticing that you've created this opportunity here today energetically. And see that happening. And so they thank you, but now it's time for you to move forward. So I should imagine that here in this cave, you're going to come out now, coming out of that cave of transformation. And outside of that cave is going to be an elevator. But this is no ordinary elevator. This is this elevator that's going to take you into new dimensions. And the beautiful thing about this elevator is it can be as wide as a beautiful suite. They can take you anywhere you'd like to go. Today, we're going to rise up into your future to see what happens 5 years from now. Now that this energetic chain has been released, let's see what your life looks like 5 years from now. So entering into your elevator, it knows exactly where to go. You see it moving you up through the atmosphere, through the clouds, through the universe, into another dimension. Up and up and up. And here in this space, in this other space, you can see a white light. And as you get closer to it, you realize that this is the timeline of your life. So you can look back and see this timeline connected to where you're at now and all the way back into the past to the day you were born in this lifetime. And you can see this connection now present into the future. And so the elevator begins to move along your timeline and it hovers over that 5-year mark. And now it begins to come down. As I count from 3 to 1, that elevator will begin to come down and you'll be moving into your life 5 years from now. 3, trusting what comes as you move through. 2, allowing yourself to fully be present with what is here now to benefit you. And 1, arriving now, 5 years into the future, seeing how your life has changed now that you've let go of that old scarcity, lack that you were carrying around. And it's no longer here. This is you 5 years from now. And I want you to look around this place and time and notice what's different for you. You can see yourself there in the future. What are you doing in the future? How do you move around in your space? Are you confident, peaceful? What's your energy like? Who's around you? Who are you spending time with? How are you creating in the world? How are you giving in the world? How are you helping people around you? How are you serving? Get a sense of that now. Just noticing yourself here, full of abundance. And now that you can see yourself here in the future, your future self actually already knows that you're here. In fact, you've already experienced this before. So your future self turns towards you and looks towards you now. And your future self wants you to know 3 things that he or she or they really appreciate about you right now in the present. 3 things they appreciate about you here right now in the present. Maybe it's the fact that you showed up to be a part of this. Maybe they appreciate your creativity or that you have that tenacity to keep moving forward. Maybe they appreciate your honesty, your courage. I don't know exactly what that'll be for you, but let yourself receive those 3 things, to hear them, to see them, to feel them, to experience those 3 things that your future self appreciates about you right now. And just take that in. Whatever you received and trusted. And even if you didn't completely get the full download right now, just know the download will come to you when you sleep tonight or tomorrow. You will know what your future self appreciates about you. And so now I'd like you to find your future self, and you see your future self there. And I want you to enter the energy or the body of your future self. So imagining this like you can enter their body, or you can put on their clothes, or you can just be a part of that energy to experience what it's like for you to move around in that abundant energy in your own body now. So seeing that happen now. And what does that feel like? How does that change inside? Do you feel lighter, easier, healthier, connected, worthy? What does that feel like in your body? Pay attention to those feelings. We're going to anchor those feelings inside of you now, so you know where you're headed. And then I'd like you to go over and to find a mirror so you can see yourself 5 years from now, looking at yourself there in the mirror and just looking to see who you've become. And you might even look younger 5 years from now. You might see how vibrant you appear now, feeling more confident as you look in yourself in your mirror, seeing the color of your eyes and truly appreciating this you here now. That sense of abundance inside of you, that knowing you are here. And this being that you are, so worthy and deserving of all this abundance. And just take that into your body, anchor it in, and know this feeling. Know it. And allow yourself now to leave this place. Even though maybe you may not want to, we're going to get back in that elevator, and you can always come back here anytime. You can reconnect with your future self and ask your future self questions that you might need help with. Going back to that elevator, coming back to the present as we count from 3 to 1. 3, moving into that elevator, moving through the clouds and the atmosphere, coming closer to your present self now. 2, seeing yourself fully integrated now, here in the present, with that future version of you and that knowing of who you are now, who you're becoming, that abundance already inside of you, already anchored inside of your body, like a beacon, a GPS guiding you along the way. And 1, coming back, fully integrated now with this energy and this experience of abundance, having already made the changes within on a deep cellular level, an energetic level that keeps you moving forward. And you can open your eyes if you had them closed, and coming back into this space now to be here in the present with me. And I want to thank you for being a part of this experience today. And just know whatever you felt and experienced, you can certainly email me or put in the chat here if you're here in Zoom, or leave on any of the channels that are live streaming this now, sharing your experience. You can journal about it. I'm going to take us back into the slides for just one moment. So hopefully you feel restored. I should have mentioned that a side effect of hypnosis is that you're going to sleep very well tonight, having had this time for yourself. You may notice that things become easier for you moving forward. So just taking inventory of what you did notice. If you want to take a few notes now, just writing down. Sometimes hypnosis can feel a little dreamlike, just like when you wake up in the morning and you know you had a wonderful dream. You want to get some of those details down. So just grabbing your pen, your paper, take those few notes down. It doesn't have to be complete sentences, maybe just a few details here. So we're going to go through what we learned today. We talked about our top 5 money blocks. Broke to belong. I'm not good with money. Money is the root of all evil. I must work harder for my money, and money doesn't grow on trees. It just grows on your family tree. Questions to ask yourself to help you see new possibilities. Is this always true? These beliefs that I have, are they always true? What do I say I am? And what behaviors do I have that are reinforcing those beliefs? And start to change them. And then we saw today how we released not only yourself, but your past and your future lineage from these money blocks, because this knowledge you've already gained today will start to shift how you live moving forward. Now, I just wanted to share this with you. As I mentioned earlier, I have a program called Unlock Your Money Magic. It's going to reopen for this summer. And I left the address here where you can go find it. So if you want to take a screenshot of your screen now, you can get on the wait list and you can just sign up, and I'll let you know when it's ready and open for you to join. So if this was helpful for you today, this is only a small sampling of what we'll do. We'll be doing so much more work on the self-worth, which is really where everything stems from. And again, I'm Nicole Hernandez, the traveling hypnotist. You can find me at thetravelinghypnotist.com at the Four Seasons Hotel here in New York in downtown. And I really want to help you take on the world with more clarity and ease. I feel this is my calling in life. And so if that sounds good to you, then check it out. And hopefully I hear from you soon. All right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me? I think we're good. Nicole, I want to thank you so very much. Let's go, if you don't mind, stop share the screen. Perfect. I will make sure that slides are shared. I want to thank you for your time, for your wisdom, for your generosity. I love that the message is so clear as we're moving forward, that it comes with clarity, but sometimes we don't know how to find that. And that this is a fantastic tool to be able to see yourself and to move forward. And it's definitely a consistent message, as we heard from our first Nicole, in terms of her epiphany, in terms of Ray that said that, you have to know where you're going, think of the end in mind. And so here we are yet again. I thank you for your wisdom, your kindness. I want to thank our sign language interpreters
Yes,
for
thank you.
their hard work, and for those who are seeing in all different forms of the stream. I do know that the YouTube did not include both the speaker and the interpreter, and so I will be re-editing everything. It just might take a little while because it is summertime and my birthday month, so I'm going to be celebrating, but I will make sure that we get information to people. I want to thank my 3 amazing guests today. Our next event is going to be in September on the 12th, also a Sunday from 3 to 5:30, and that's a conversation. And so it's going to be taking what we got going on so far, but really talking to hopefully many of these speakers as well as some others, just again forwarding that conversation about business, about mindset, and about generational wealth, and how we're able to, through so many different ways, not only attract it, bring it into our lives, but through the use of experts, and really, who do we trust, and learning more about that, build our wealth, that we can then continue that on. With that, I appreciate all my interpreters for going a little over, and for anyone who is participating, thank you so much for spending a little extra time with us today. Have an amazing Sunday, and have an amazing week. See you guys soon. See you in September.